Bernie laid on a fleet of trucks into which the Grand-Prix circus packed itself for the border crossing to Detroit. Grand-Prix racing has on many occasions been declared clinically deceased in the United States, but Detroit for one doesn't think so. Tom Bay was present in the Lola pit, but strictly as a spectator since he could barely walk. Alan Jones would not be driving alone, however, because Tom Bay's empty seat would be filled by Eddie Cheever, back for one race only at this address. His way at last cleared to join the Arrows team, Christian Danner posed for rare footage showing him unaccompanied by females. Martin Brundle had brought Mrs. Brundle to help set him up for the bumpy circuit. Senna once again went all out for the pole. Mansell did his best not to let the Brazilian get a swelled head, but when Senna's time was signaled to Prost, he couldn't believe it. But even Senna found the circuit a bit of a sweat.
I think Detroit is not the best circuit because it's too bumpy and you run between the walls. It's good to be on pole here, but the race is going to be very hard, tough, long race, and I hope we can have a good fight, a clear fight, and a good show for all the public.
Well, a very good morning and welcome to the 1986 Detroit Grand Prix, coming away live here on Nine's Wide World of Sports. What a great season it's been so far for 1986. The Grand Prix season hots up just about every time we cross to any of the events anywhere in the world. Now, this particular circuit, the Detroit circuit, should favour the McLaren cars. And if you find out that they, as they've been going very well, we'll find that the McLaren cars who did so well in Monaco should show that they're going to do it again on a street circuit. Keke Rosberg, can he repeat his win here of last year? His teammate Alain Prost, who drove so well in Monaco and dominated that race, certainly must be favoured as well. Now, the championship table looks very interesting. At the moment, we've got Keke Rosberg in 5th position. And if he does win today, every race from now on will certainly be a sizzler. This means the Australian Grand Prix this year could be the championship decider. However, if Nigel Mansell wins his 3rd successive Grand Prix, emulating Alan Jones' 1979 feat, also for the Williams team, he'll be in a reasonably comfortable spot. So the two teams to watch here are Williams and McLaren. The Lotus team, with Ayrton Senna at the helm, needs to start winning to certainly become a threat. However, at the moment, he could be in for it today here at the Detroit Grand Prix. There's Ayrton Senna. He's on pole position. Alongside of him is Nigel Mansell. And the second row, we've got Nelson Piquet and René Arnoux. And Ferrari finally up there on the 3rd row with Stefan Johansson and Jacques Lafitte for Ligier. It just goes to show you, you don't have to be under 40 to get in the top 10. So we're in for a very interesting event coming up the 5th Grand Prix hosted by the Motown city of Detroit. Now, despite the poor track conditions, you know, the drivers usually say they don't like driving here because it's a very rough, very bumpy circuit. We think that it's going to be an absolute race. They should be able to race all the way and not worry about fuel consumption. However, each car will have to make one scheduled tyre pit stop, and some, of course, will probably have to make more. As you can see with the pit stops, it could be the deciding factor. We'll be back with the action here for the Detroit 1986 Grand Prix in just one moment. And welcome back to Nine's Wide World of Sports and our live coverage of the 1986 Detroit Grand Prix, coming away live from Motown City, USA, Detroit in Northern America. Let's have a look at the grid positions for the 1986 Grand Prix. Ayrton Senna, a 138.301. Now, Senna's lap record here, according to my records, is 146.612, set last year. So you can see the pace is really on. They've been trying to slow the cars down, but they're getting faster all the time. Nigel Mansell, well, his protagonist is alongside of him, also a 138.839, so they're very close. Nelson Piquet, Nigel's teammate is on the second row of the grid in the Williams, 139.076. Rennie Arnoux for Ligier, and it hasn't been a great year for the Ligier team. The French boys really getting their act together on a 139.689. Stefan Johansson for Ferrari. Well, you could say Ligier have had a very good year, but Ferrari have certainly had a disastrous year to date. Last year, Stefan Johansson was second, and also Alboreto was third. Can the Ferraris come through in this event? But Stefan's on the third row of the grid. Jacques Lafitte for Ligier at 140.676. As I said before, you certainly don't have to be under 40 to be a real race goer. You ask Alan Jones. Alan Jones, of course, he hasn't had a good time here. He likes the street circuit, but at the moment it appears that the Cosworth team have put the go slow pills in their cars because he's back in grid position number 21. Jonathan Palmer, he is also welcome back to the Grand Prix circuit because Jonathan had an accident not that long ago, and he's back with us again. If you look down the grid at the moment, there is one point that I did notice, and of course, unfortunately, it's been a disastrous year in many ways for motor races around the world because we've lost so many. Stefan Beloff, who was fourth, and Elio De Angelis, who was fifth last year, here at the Detroit Grand Prix, are not on the grid whatsoever because they have departed over the last 12 months. Let's have a little look as we're waiting for pictures for Detroit to get ready. As you know, it's coming live on Nine's Wide World of Sports. Just waiting for our pictures to come up and for commentators Murray Walker and James Hunt. But we'll have a look at the highlights of the opening round of the 1986 season, the Brazilian Grand Prix.
The 25 starters and 13 teams arrived to revel in the revs here in romantic Rio de Janeiro for round 1 of 16 in the 1986 Grand Prix season. The air was hot with expectancy in the starting grid. The ailing Frank Williams, viewing the scene from a London hospital bed, received get-well cards via satellite from his team and Grand Prix boss Bernie Eccleston. Local Latin Ayrton Senna da Silva took pole. Fellow Brazilian Nelson Piquet shared front row. It was untamed youth versus mature macho. So to race time, folks. And millions of dollars of shining machinery started the screaming 61-lap Brazilian Grand Prix. The scene was like a BHP board meeting. Senna took the lead and promptly put England's Mansell into the safety fence, which now makes the score 3-love Senna's way. But remember, the season is only one race young. Senna holds top spot for 4 laps. Then twice world champion Piquet in his debut Williams Honda drive blasts through. Race order is now Piquet, Senna, Alboreto. Lap 7, Rosberg pits the Marlboro McLaren, and the fiery Finn has to quench his enthusiasm with an early margarita. Current world champion Alain Prost in the number 1 McLaren qualified 9th, but showed why he's world champ. By lap 10, he's up to 5th. Alan Jones' Beatrice Lola lacks the new Ford engine and has to move over for Prost. Better luck next time, Al. Lap 12, Piquet has opened up a 12-second lead over Senna. And the flying Frenchman Prost closes, taking Alboreto's Ferrari and 3rd slot on lap 16, earning a new lap record. The hot, tough conditions are chewing up tires like the Wrigley's factory, and Prost out-accelerates Alboreto. Race leader Piquet pits the Williams. Alboreto's Ferrari follows suit. Senna slips the sleek JPS Lotus back to the lead. Prost, however, is not going to allow the Mansell Mauler to stay front runner for long. Lap 22, Senna pits. A good one. But here comes Piquet. Lap 27, Nelson recovers the lead. Johnny Dumfries, in his debut Grand Prix, must have thought that all the Lotus pit crew were Brazilian as he suffers a spirit-destroying pit stop some 39 seconds. Lap 31, ominous smoke signals belch from the rear of Prost's McLaren. Next lap, he's gulping mineral water. Today, he'll not savor the winner's champagne. We're past the halfway point, and the striking blue and white Ligier cars of Arnoux and Lafitte, having clung to the top 3 all race, find their tactics paying off. Ferrari's Alboreto is not so lucky. and gets his marching orders on lap 37. Lap 44, Piquet is picking off the back markers. Senna is over 17 seconds in arrears. Regardless, Piquet pours on the power and creates a new lap record of 1:33.546 seconds. But race 1 is not all glory. It's claimed 15 of the 25 starters, including Alan Jones, but don't write him off. The action's now centered around the battle for third between Arnoux and Jolly-Jacques Lafitte. 10 laps from home, Lafitte is through to third, and the 1986 Brazilian is signed, sealed and delivered. Piquet takes the checkered flag and his 14th Grand Prix victory. Senna settles for second, Lafitte third, Arnoux fourth, Britain's Martin Brundle in the Tyrrell fifth, Austria's Gerhard Berger for Benetton sixth, and the first World Drivers' Championship points are posted. The locals break out the tequila as the sophisticated Grand Prix winning trio give each other a Moet Chandon shower. And so, we say farewell to Rio, and it's into the jet transporters and off to Spain for the Spanish Grand Prix April 13. Till then, it's hasta la vista, which in Ayrton Senna Spanish translates, if it's Mansell and it moves, nail it.
And of course, they're both sharing the front row of the grid of the Detroit Grand Prix for 1986. And we have pictures at the moment, and we're getting set to cross live to Murray and James for their expert commentary. We'll be back in one moment after this break on Nine's Wide World of Sports.
Last week, the Formula One teams were in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix, and they haven't had far to come south into the United States and Detroit for the Detroit Grand Prix, which runs on the very streets of the city, round the magnificent Renaissance Centre built here on the side of the Detroit River. It's perhaps the most punishing circuit of the entire season. Very tight, very bumpy, and while it may lack some of the glamour of Monte Carlo, this is very much a round-the-houses circuit. And here's the man who's vanquished all during qualifying, Ayrton Senna, once again re-establishing himself and Lotus on pole position, the fourth time he's done it this year. He's second equal in the World Championship at the moment on 27 points, and the man he's equal with is the man who seems to have been his rival all season, Nigel Mansell. And here he is, joining Ayrton Senna on the front row of the grid, second fastest in Saturday's qualifying, although he was the fastest of all on Friday. And fresh from 2 wins in Belgium and again a week ago in Canada, Nigel is absolutely on top of his form with the Williams Honda. On the second row, the other Williams Honda, Nelson Piquet, the man who in fact led the World Championship at the beginning of the season by virtue of his win in Brazil, and he led in Belgium before retiring and handing over the lead to his teammate Nigel Mansell. So still a man very much capable of winning a race. And here's a bit of a surprise. Fourth quickest, René Arnoux in the Ligier. The Ligiers have been going quicker and quicker all season, and now Pirelli seem to have an excellent qualifying tyre, and René Arnoux made full use of it in Saturday qualifying, fourth quickest on the grid on the second row. Fifth fastest is one of the Ferraris. It's Stefan Johansson. Stefan once again quicker than the team leader Michele Alboreto, and very anxious to make amends for his unfortunate accident a week ago in Montreal when he collided with Johnny Dumfries's Lotus, which was emerging from the pits after a stop. Some doubt about whether Stefan will stay with Ferrari next year, so he's anxious to make a good impression. And here's the grand old man of Grand Prix racing, 42 years young, Jacques Lafitte, showing that not only can René Arnoux qualify quickly in the Ligier, but so can he. And I think this is his 174th Grand Prix, and he's still going as quick as ever.
Formula One, the glamour of auto racing, has always been here. World Championship drivers piloting high-tech, state-of-the-art racing cars in wheel-to-wheel competition on the world's most challenging courses. For the drivers, the circuit is a life in the fast lane, high energy, high style, and high risk. But for some, the risk is worth the reward, traveling the globe in quest of the World Driving Championship. The Four Continent Tour began in March.
The pole position, is everything all right for you today?
So far, yes. It's going to be a hard race. Probably the Williams and McLarens will be very strong, especially at the beginning. But if we can get away on the first 10 laps to be in between the first, I think then could be an interesting race.
How many changes for tires?
Maybe one, maybe none. It's not decided.
Okay, good luck to you, Ayrton Senna. And now, across the front row to my colleague, Barry Gill.
Thank you, Chris. Well, I'm with the man who comes here hotter than any of the drivers, the man who's just won the Belgian Grand Prix, the man who last week won the Canadian Grand Prix. The question for you, Nigel, can you make it a hat-trick?
One thing's for sure, we'll be trying, Barry.
How do you like this circuit? The Americans call you the street fighter. Is that a fair decision?
Yeah, but I don't want to fight with the street this afternoon. I want to beat it, you know.
And can you beat Ayrton Senna?
I think we've proved that the last two races. You know, it's going to be very tough for the car here this afternoon, though. It's very, very hot, so the engine's going to run hot. But fingers crossed, and with everybody wishing us well, we'll be trying.
Let's wish you well as well, Nigel, and back to Ken Squire.
Nigel Mansell has become a bit of a folk hero here in North America, and a lot of it because of television. You'll remember 2 years ago on this race course, at the start in the black car, he tried to move his way between Proust and Piquet in this terrible crash. He was later fined because of that. Then it was on to Dallas that year. And at Dallas, who will forget those remarkable pictures, the last turn of the last lap, running out of fuel, and Nigel Mansell trying desperately with every ounce of energy to get his car to the finish line. Then last week, Canada, his 4th Grand Prix victory. He goes for 3 in a row here today. Now, if there is one Detroit Grand Prix, in row 1, shattering all records for this 2.25-mile course, Brazil's Ayrton Senna. 4th time he's been on the pole this year, his 2nd straight here in Detroit. Beside him, England's Nigel Mansell going for 3 wins in a row for Team Williams. In row 2, the 2-time world champion and 1984 Detroit winner, Nelson Piquet. Alongside is Rini Arnoux, the 7-time Grand Prix winner for Team Ligier. In row 3, the popular 29-year-old Swedish challenger for Ferrari, Stefan Johansson. And beside him, Jacques Lafitte, 6-time Grand Prix winner, oldest driver in the field at 42. For row 4, the reigning world champion for Team McLaren, 31-year-old Frenchman Alain Prost. And alongside, Italy's Riccardo Patrese in the low-line Brabham. For row 5, defending Detroit champion, the 82 world champion, Finland's Keke Rosberg for Team McLaren. And in 10th position, best qualifying position yet for the Lola Ford, it's Eddie Cheever replacing the injured Patrick Conway. In row 6, the 1983 Detroit winner for Ferrari, Michele Alboreto, and alongside the sensational 26-year-old Austrian Gerhard Berger. In row 7, Thierry Boutsen of Belgium for the Arrows team, and Johnny Dumfries, the aristocrat, the Earl of Dumfries, driving in the Lotus. Row 8, it's Britain's Derek Warwick, now with the Brabham team replacing Elio De Angelis, and alongside from Kings Lynn comes Martin Brundle. In row 9, the 1983 Indianapolis pole sitter, Italy's Teo Fabi. The 18th position from France, Philip Strepp. In row 10, Christian Donner of Germany, 28 years old, and Dr. Jonathan Palmer of England for Team Zaxby. The 11th row is Alan Jones, the 1980 world champion from Australia in the Lola Ford, and Giancarlo Cenzani starts in 22nd position with the Osella Alfa Romeo. In row 12, Andre de Cesare in the Minardi, and his teammate Nannini starts beside him. The final row, Alan Berg, a new driver from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, starts in 25th position, and it's Rothengater starting 26th, the Dutchman, rounding out the field for Team Zaxby. The 2-minute board is up, and let's take a look at the course they'll be facing today here along the Detroit.
Felizmente, saiu do coma em que estava mergulhado há alguns dias, aguardando-se agora que melhore rapidamente. Trata-se de um verdadeiro atleta, o piloto suíço. Portanto, esperemos que realmente Mark Sturer recupere rápido.
And welcome back on Nine's Wide World of Sports to our live coverage of the 1986 Detroit Grand Prix, Motown City, USA, home of Ford. And we'll find out what's happening there in the home of Ford and in the 86 Detroit from our expert commentators, Murray Walker and James Hunt, live here on the Nine Network.
On the right in front, Ayrton Senna. On the left in front, Nigel Mansell. Behind Senna is Piquet. Behind Mansell is Arnoux. Behind Piquet is Johansson. And behind Arnoux is Jacques Lafitte. The first corner is all important. Like Monaco, this is a street circuit. And now the warm-up lap around this 2.5 mile, 4.02 kilometre circuit.
Yes, and a very, very hard race for transmissions, for brakes particularly. Brakes are a problem for these cars. It's very much a stop-start circuit on the streets, and above all, a hard race for the drivers. It's very hot here in Detroit today, knocking on 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's going to take its toll, because not only is it very hard physically, with these cars have massive power and acceleration. Remember, fuel consumption is not a problem here, so they'll be running plenty of power, a lot of boost on their turbocharged engines, and the G-forces get very big on braking and accelerating, and of course on the corners, and concentration is also at an absolute premium on a street circuit. They run through a tunnel of concrete barriers, and they can't afford to drive with any sort of gay abandon. Everything has to be very accurate and controlled, because one slip will put the car straight into the wall, rip a wheel off, and that's the end of the race. And already we have an apparent spinner here on the warm-up lap. And there you see the grid captioned with Ayrton Senna in pole position. Nigel Mansell was battling it out with him, and then on his quick lap on qualifiers yesterday, he got held up, unfortunately, when Alain Prost crashed just before the end of the lap, and he had to pick his way through the debris, which cost him a possible another pole position. But Mansell certainly is the man in form at the moment. The Williams team are in top form. Mansell's won the last 2 Grand Prix in a dominating performance last time at Montreal, when he took the pole and led the race almost from start to finish. There is the poleman, Ayrton Senna, now slowing the field down to bunch them up as usual, so he doesn't have to wait too long on the grid.
So, Ayrton Senna leading round at the end of the parade lap, with Huub Rotengatter, the Dutchman in the Zack-Speed, having already spun off at the back, although I think they'll get him started again. The start is all important. There's a double apex long left-hander after the start, and the first man into that corner, or that double corner, is going to have a sporting chance of staying there for a long, long time, because it's very, very difficult to pass. So, with the Detroit River on their right, your left, and the Renaissance building, which dominates the skyline, on their left and your right, up they come. Derek Warwick there in his newly painted helmet in the Brabham. Senna then in pole position right front. Then Nigel Mansell, 2 wins to his credit in the last 2 Grand Prix races. Can he make it the hat-trick? On the left front, behind Senna is Piquet. Behind Mansell is Arnoux. Behind Piquet is Johansson. And behind Arnoux is Lafitte. So both the Williams and both the Ligiers are in the top 6. Derek Ongaro waiting to start the race, as he does all of them. The flags wave in the background to indicate that the drivers are all ready, and it's a go. Mansell and Senna up to the first left-hander together, and already up the Ligier of René Arnoux comes up into 3rd place behind Senna and Mansell. Now here's the second left-hander. This is where Mansell went off the year before last, but Senna into the right-hander, Mansell, Arnoux. One of the Ferraris up in 5th place, And thank heavens it's a clean start at the beginning of the Detroit Grand Prix. Senna, Mansell and Hub Rotengatter has not started. The man who spun off on the warm-up lap seems to be out of the race already. But now Ayrton Senna, who habitually turns up the boost good and high on the opening lap to try and break clear, is ahead of Mansell, Arnoux, Piquet, Alboreto, and then behind Alboreto is Prost, and behind Prost in about 7th place in the second Ligier, Jacques Lafitte. René Arnoux is in 3rd position, and up comes Johansson, who started fairly well down on the grid. And now you see them in this typically Detroit scene. Round the left-hander. Now they've got to go through the tunnel shortly, because Detroit, like Monaco, is unusual in having a tunnel. And Alboreto is going well. It's Senna, Mansell, Arnoux, Piquet, Alboreto, Prost, Arnoux, Johansson, and then one of the Haas Lolas as they burst out of the tunnel at the end of lap 1 in this 63-lap race. So Ayrton Senna is demonstrating his street fighting ability, but then so are all of the rest of them. A bit of a gap with as Prost goes through, and on lap 2, Mansell striking sparks from the rear of the Williams closes right up on Ayrton Senna. Those two tying for 2nd place in the World Championship after 6 races. This is the 7th in 16. And last year there was a lot of problems with the course breaking up.
Yes, well, there's been no complaints so far this year about the course, but what was good to see was that we got pretty much the whole field around the first lap, because on a circuit as tight as this, it really is quite an achievement.
So, Lotus leads, Williams 2nd, Ligier in 3rd position, the Williams of Piquet 4th, then it's Stefan Johansson 5th ahead of Prost, and Alboreto down in 8th place behind Lafitte, who is 7th. And look at Arnoux challenging Piquet for 2nd place, but you can see how difficult it is to get past on this street circuit.
Yes, overtaking on all street circuits is a problem, and this is as difficult as any of them. Arnoux having a look at Mansell there, Mansell going down the inside to cover the overtaking manoeuvre, and it would seem to me that Senna is holding them up a little bit at the front, because they're climbing all over the back of him, Arnoux all over the back of Mansell, and Mansell is having a look at Senna all the time. So the people down in the lower places will be happy to see that. The field is concertinaed up, because of course if you're behind a slower car and somebody's getting away, it's very frustrating indeed. The 2 Ferraris are showing better form once again since the Belgian Grand Prix. They've been a bit better off. Stefan Johansson particularly showing very, very good form in practice here. And Alboreto, who didn't, and there goes Mansell. Mansell has ducked past Ayrton Senna, and Nigel Mansell takes the lead. Now, we'll have a look and see if Senna was holding him up, if Mansell can get away at all. And of course, Senna now comes under immediate attack from René Arnoux.
Because he lost momentum when Nigel Mansell sprinted past him, and this is an indication of the superb form of Nigel Mansell. He's now won the last 2 Grand Prix. He's had a 2nd place and a 4th place this year as well, to give him his 2nd equal place in the championship, and he's in really terrific form. The way he went past Senna there was quite magnificent, and now Mansell's got that inestimable advantage of having a clear circuit, and Senna's got the big problem of not only trying to keep with Mansell, who's trying to pull away, but to keep Arnoux behind him. And look at the way 37-year-old René Arnoux, ex-Ferrari, ex-Renault teams, is harrying Ayrton Senna, and because of that, look at the way, and he's trying again. This is where he tried on the previous lap. Senna moves across in 2nd position. Meantime, Nigel Mansell is remorselessly increasing his lead. Mansell leads, Senna 2nd, Arnoux 3rd, Piquet 4th, and great stuff, the Ferrari of Johansson is 5th.
Yes, and Senna definitely seems to be the slower car of this leading bunch, and that'll make Mansell very happy, and Senna is probably going even slower than he could if he was on his own, because he's very busy covering his rear from René Arnoux, who's attacking it all the time. And of course, when you've got to drive watching your mirrors all the time, it makes it very difficult to put in clean, fast laps. So that's an advantage for Nigel Mansell, and he's certainly taking it. He's stretched quite a substantial lead after one lap in front. And Jacques Lafitte having a crack down the inside of Alain Prost, and he's made it. So Lafitte passes Alain Prost, and the Ligiers are showing fantastic form.
Indeed they are. Nigel Mansell leading by nearly 3 seconds. Senna, Arnoux third. Piquet and Johansson fourth and fifth. Lafitte sixth in the second Ligier. Alboreto is seventh. So both the Ferraris are in the top 7. Both the Williams are in the top 6. Both the Ligiers are in the top 6. And Nigel Mansell is starting to build a cushion. And one of the Brabhams, I can't tell you which, exits the pits. It's Derek Warwick. Derek Warwick out of the pits already on lap 3. As Mansell goes through, and that's Alessandro Nannini. Alessandro Nannini has gone off the course at the corner which claimed so many competitors last year when it broke up. Mansell leading, look at that. Now you can see the gap, and you can see the terrific battle between Senna and Arnoux, which is allowing Piquet, Johansson, Alboreto and Lafitte to close right up. We're starting to get 2 races. The pacemaker, here he is, exiting the Atwater Tunnel, the dominant on form man from the Isle of Man, Nigel Mansell in the Williams Honda, coming through to complete another lap with the rest behind him.
And Ayrton Senna really is doing Nigel Mansell a huge favour here, because Mansell can see that he's pulling away very fast. He'll know that from his pits radio. He'll also know it from his pit signals as Arnoux attacks once again. But what it means is that Nigel Mansell can in fact relax and does not have to really hurry, and that's very important on the street circuit, because it is definitely a defensive driving technique on the street circuit as opposed to the normally attacking technique used on a man-made circuit with runoff areas and curves that you can ride up. Here it's a very different story, and you don't want to be in a hurry, and Mansell for sure is stroking it fairly comfortably. He'll be waiting for news that Senna has been pushed down a place, and then of course you'll have to rethink his tactics and may have to go into the flat-out hurrying mode. In the meantime, it's interesting to see that there seems to be some loss of form from the McLaren team. Montreal last week was really the first time I've seen them beaten for sheer speed in a race for quite a long time, and they've been struggling here in Detroit all weekend. They've been struggling to qualify well. They weren't very quick in the warm-up this morning, so world champion Alain Prost is looking now to have a real fight on his hands to defend his championship.
Lap 5 in this 63-lap race, and Nigel Mansell watching his signals, listening to his radio, shows you how high-tech Grand Prix racing has become. Is leading by 5 seconds now from this battle between 3, 4, 5 men as they come through the tunnel. Senna second, Arnoux third.
Now, just having a look at Arnoux's rear tyres, they looked a little bit grained to me. It's possible that yes, they don't look good. That may or may not be serious. But Arnoux's rear tyres look as if they're taking a little bit too much work early on in the race. And certainly he doesn't seem to be climbing over the back of Senna quite as he was a couple of laps ago. In the meantime, Nelson Piquet sitting comfortably behind them, and I'm sure he's taking it pretty carefully and easily, because he's allowing René Arnoux to do the work for him. I think he probably reckons that there may well be a coming together on this tight circuit with such little space for passing, and I think he'd want to leave some room in case they do that and hope that they make a gap for him, because there really is no point in Nelson trying to pass at the moment. Going back to what I said last week, that I noticed a decline in form of Nelson Piquet, and particularly in himself. He seems to be unhappy, and he certainly hasn't looked very happy here in Detroit all weekend. He's looked fairly miserable. I think he feels now that justifiably for the team, that the Williams team are rallying very, very strongly indeed around Nigel Mansell, and that's not surprising, because he certainly commanded that support with his outstanding driving over the last couple of races. And I think Nelson, rather than rather than fighting back, as one would hope he's doing, seems to be sort of letting it get him down, and that isn't really what one would expect of such a great driver.
Lap 6 almost completed, and Nigel Mansell leading by over 5 seconds, very comfortably. You can see Senna in second place, Arnoux still hounding in for third. Piquet is fourth, Johansson is fifth, Jacques Lafitte is in sixth position.
And it looks like a lot of cars are in tyre trouble. I'm looking at the rear tyres of most of the cars. I noticed that Mansell's lead has reduced a little bit, and it is one of the great difficulties of this circuit here at Detroit, because it's only used for the one meeting a year. The track conditions change from day to, not just from day to day, but from hour to hour. And so tyres become something of a lottery, and the choice of tyres can be very difficult indeed. Arnoux' rear tyres don't look very healthy. I'm looking at Johansson's Ferrari, and his left rear looks pretty unhappy to me. And Mansell and Senna is now catching Mansell fast, and I suspect it's tyre trouble. We'll have a look at his tyres as he comes. Well, they look all right to me, but it seems to me the natural explanation for the fact that Senna is suddenly closing fast.
Senna definitely closing up on the race leader Nigel Mansell, and this is the 7th lap. What was a 5-second gap is now a visual one. Both their tyres seem to be okay visually. They both started on C compound tyre.
No, Mansell's right rear looks pretty unhappy. Senna's tyres look all right. Now, Senna may have been taking it easy to look after his tyres, because in a race where tyre wear and tyre performance is critical, such as this, and marginal, then of course the car is at its worst, and Senna having a look now and putting Mansell under real pressure, and he's pulled away a bit from René Arnoux as well. But of course the car is on full tanks. It's at its hardest on the tyres. It's heavy, and of course the tyres, when they're brand new, develop more heat and go off more quickly, and so they're at their worst, and it looks like tyre trouble for a lot of people today.
And there was a signal from Nigel Mansell to his pit as he passed there, which could be some confirmation of a verbal message he's given them over the radio, and now Senna's going for it. This is lap 8 out of 63. The two rivals in Grand Prix racing this year, who fought since the very beginning when Mansell was taken off by Senna in Brazil, and then Senna won in Belgium with Mansell second. Mansell's won 2 races already, first, second and third, almost together. Williams, Lotus and Ligier, Mansell, Senna and Arnoux holding on well. The two second and third cars powered by the V6 Renault engines, and Senna now can see exactly what the situation is with Nigel Mansell's tyres, and Nigel Mansell's left front is looking a bit dodgy to me.
Yes, and having just said that McLaren seems to be losing form, I may well be wrong here. The teams in Detroit have been understandably pretty reticent to discuss what tyres they're running, because, and there goes Senna, punches past Mansell in a very clever little manoeuvre. He took Nigel pretty much by surprise, or by the time Nigel realised what was happening, it was too late. Senna was alongside him, and Senna jumped through into the lead. But as I say, McLaren's, I understand, are running on B tyres, and so does René Arnoux go past. René Arnoux round the outside, so Nigel Mansell is definitely in trouble, and the McLaren team, I understand, are running B compound tyres, which are a little bit harder than the C tyres, and a little bit more durable than most of the teams are running, and it may well be a very clever decision, this.
So, a change in race leadership, and now the gap between Ayrton Senna and René Arnoux, who's the new second-place man, is almost 2 seconds. And you can see that Arnoux, with Mansell right behind him, has got Piquet in 4th place now, Jacques Lafitte in 5th position. So Stefan Johansson has slipped down a place. There he is 6th. Prost is 7th. Alboreto is 8th. The Ferraris are both going much better here at Detroit. They've had work done to them, even since Canada last week. The drivers are much happier than they were, and there's certainly no problem over power with the Ferraris, because in practice, Stefan Johansson was fastest across the finish line at the end of the lap at some 165 miles an hour. But now on lap 10, Senna leads, Arnoux second, Mansell third. That's one of the Benettons out of the race. Can't see which one, but we'll find out from our lap chart as they go through. And the leaders are through into the Atwater Tunnel again. 9 laps almost completed as they come up to turn 16 and 17. And you can see that, there's only about 3 seconds, if that, between Arnoux, who is second, and the Ferrari of Stefan Johansson. And Lafitte is charging now. Jacques Lafitte, the oldest man in the race, 42 years old, is coming up with a wet sail. And the Ligiers seem to be absolutely perfectly set up for this circuit. They've been getting better and better race by race. And sure enough, Arnoux there, second place. Mansell third. That's one of the McLarens in the pits.
And that was Keke Rosberg in the pits, yes, because we can see Prost still going round. So Rosberg was in the pits for tyres, and so that confirms that we do have serious tyre problems. And that Benetton that was parked there was the Benetton of Gerhard Berger. And so Senna, who's looked after his tyres, is now beginning to look a little bit in command of this race, because Arnoux, although he's going very well, I think he is in a bit of tyre trouble already. I noticed his rear tyres were one of the first ones I noticed to look a bit ragged. And Mansell, in fact, despite his tyre trouble, is now having no difficulty in staying with René Arnoux. So tyres are undoubtedly the dominant factor in this race at the moment.
Johnny Dumfries is in 16th place. Jonathan Palmer is in 18th place. You're looking at the leaders coming out of the Atwater Tunnel now, and they're bunching up. Arnoux second, Mansell third, and look at the way Jacques Lafitte is coming up. The Ligiers are terrific here at Detroit, because they are now in 2nd and 4th places. The oldest team in terms of drivers is doing crackingly well. Arnoux, 37 years old, there he is, in 2nd place. Behind him, Mansell, then in 4th place, 42-year-old Jacques Lafitte, and those are on Pirelli tyres. This could be very significant, but it's not until we get the tyre changes later in the race that we'll see the true form.
Yes, a lot of credit for the Ligier's newfound an improving turn of speed would have to go to the Pirelli tyre people. They've been working away to get on terms with their big rivals Goodyear, and at last it seems that they're doing it. Having said that, there are the two Ferraris together just off the leaderboard, and but I must say that I think that Arnoux is in tyre trouble, hence Lafitte's charge through. He's probably looked after his tyres a little bit better in the opening laps. His vast wealth of experience would tell him to do that, and that should be paying dividends now. As the fuel load lightens, the drivers who haven't damaged their tyres so far will start to show the advantage, because they can go harder and harder. But once you've damaged a tyre and fluffed it up, brained it, as we say, then it's very difficult to get the tyre back again.
Lap 11 out of 63. There's Senna leading. Behind him in 2nd place, René Arnoux. Then it's Nigel Mansell third. Jacques Lafitte is in 4th place. Nelson Piquet is 5th. World Championship leader Alain Prost is in 6th position. 7th is Johansson. 8th is Alboreto. In 9th place is Eddie Cheever, and that's a terrific performance. It's his first race in the Lola Haas, and he hadn't even sat in it until he arrived on Friday to practice. So look at the gap between Senna leading and the battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th.
Yes, and Senna is noticeably pulling away now, and that comes as no great surprise, because looking at his tyres, he's obviously looked after them very well, and that's a cunning and sensible thing of Senna to do. He wasn't tempted to go for the early sprint with Nigel Mansell, which shows a little bit more calm and experience, which is something to be worried about for Ayrton Senna. He's shown a certain amount of impetuosity over the last 6 months or so, but this shows a certain maturity to his driving. He resisted the temptation to chase Mansell, he looked after his tyres, and it is now definitely paying dividends.
Alboreto has moved ahead of Johansson up to 7th place. And now Jacques Lafitte is 3rd. What's he going to do about René Arnoux? Coming towards us in the white helmet, Arnoux. Lafitte is 3rd. Down to 4th goes Mansell. Still 5th is Nelson Piquet, and up to 6th place has come Alain Prost. So that crafty campaigner, Alain Prost, may well have been watching points very carefully in front of him, conserving his tyres, getting ready to move up through the field, because that is what is happening.
Yes, of the top 6, I've been looking carefully at tyres. I've seen that Senna's tyres look good, Arnoux don't look good, Lafitte's I haven't had a good look at, Mansell's don't look good, I haven't had a good look at Piquet's, but Prost's look good. So certainly the 1st and 6th look good, and there goes Senna just lapping one of the Minardis.
That of Andrea De Cesaris, with Nannini already out of the race. And I remind you that Derek Warwick has been into the pits. Nannini is out. Keke Rosberg has been into the pits, so he's well down. And that lap of 1 minute 44.44 is a new lap record. And it's approximately 1 second quicker than Senna's own lap record from 1985. So the Brazilian may be conserving his tyres, but my goodness, he's going quick as well. Melizier's 2nd and 3rd still, and they've never been as high as that this season, or for a long, long time. Jacques Lafitte in 3rd position, and Alboreto going well in the Ferrari. And on lap 13, with another 50 laps to go, a long, long way, and the 2nd and 3rd closing up on De Cesaris and pulling away from Mansell, it is still Senna leading in the Lotus. Then in 2nd and 3rd places, the 2 Ligiers of Arnoux and Lafitte. Then the 2 Williams of Mansell in 4th position, Piquet in 5th place. Prost is 6th, Alboreto is 7th, Johansson is 8th. Still in 9th position, Eddie Cheever. In fact, he's moved up a place since I last called the places. And Cheever, anxious to do well, not only because it's his home country, America, but because he's desperately anxious, like Derek Warwick was, to get back into Grand Prix racing. But now Ayrton Senna sprinting up to turn 16 and 17 on to the kink and to complete the lap is certainly commanding the race.
Just the 2 Ligiers in line astern lapping the Minardi, and a couple of slower cars in the way being lapped. And the Ferrari situation is very interesting for the 2 drivers, because quite a serious battle between the 2 drivers is developing, and it's very important to both of them, because after a bad season, which so far Ferrari are having, they traditionally fire at least one of their drivers, and so it's very important for one or other of them, and to each of them, to establish a supremacy over the other driver. Now Johansson out-qualified Michele Alboreto here, his form has been improving steadily all season. He's really been driving very well, and Alboreto has come from behind and in fact is now going better than him in the race, and is really putting on a charge. And I think of course it's vital, because Alboreto, it is not an advantage to be an Italian driver, and Keke Rosberg has disappeared. We don't know what's happened to him, but we haven't seen him come round.
And Alain Prost is, as I predicted, moving up through the field. We are looking at the battle for 2nd between Arnoux and Lafitte, and it's going to be more than interesting to see how these teammates handle the situation. Because as far as I know, there are no orders. But up to 5th place now has come Alain Prost, because he has passed Nelson Piquet and he's closing up on Nigel Mansell. Hopefully we'll be able to look at it soon, as Ayrton Senna comes through to complete his 14th lap. He's still got to change tyres. And he's doing it into the pits now. This is much earlier than I expected for one, and it means to say that now up into the lead will go the two Ligiers of Arnoux and Lafitte. And if they have chosen a harder tyre compound than Ayrton Senna had, with the Ligiers on Pirellis and Senna on Goodyears, it could be the making of the race. But out of the race after a searingly fast pit stop goes Senna. He's closing up on a strange helmet to most of you, that of Alan Berg, and there are the two new race leaders. Are they going to foul things up for each other? Because it's the teammates, René Arnoux and Jacques Lafitte. Jacques Lafitte, probably the most...
そしてセナは結局8位で戻ってとなると
ワンツーワンツー What appears to be an unscheduled stop has taken Senna and the Lotus team out of first place. It has put up into first and second the Ligier team, Arnoux, and the oldest driver at 42, Jacques Lafitte. 1-2 on the field. Mansell back to third, Prost is in fourth, Piquet is in fifth, and Almiretto in sixth. And let's go to Chris Economaki.
Ayrton Senna, who perhaps was going to go without a pit stop, had to make a stop to change a flat right rear tire. But while he was in here, they changed all four tires, and he's back on the track. Back to you.
I think also one of the interesting things here is that both of the Ligiers are, of course, on Pirelli tires, and the rest of the field, or the field that's running fast right now, is on Goodyear. So maybe they have a little bit of a better tire, and that was the comment down the pit lane, that the Pirellis here had a tire that handled better at this type of track.
Senna, you just saw him, he is now in 8th. There are your two leaders, the teammates from France, Arnoux and Lafitte, down into turn 1. Surprising turnaround in this event. Ligier first and second.
Yes, that's right, Ken. There's something interesting here too, as David and I both know, even though they're teammates, there's probably not a lot of love lost out there at the moment. Jacques Lafitte, I bet you, really wants to lead that race.
Boy, I'll say he does, yeah. He always has been that way, and he always will. And I mean, it's tremendous to see a guy of that age driving with such incredible spirit and verve.
A tiny man who stays in such tremendous physical condition. Lafitte in the second position, 42. He has won 6 races, Arnoux 7. Look at them scrap. Now there is Senna back there in the 8th position, trying to do catch-up here now.
I wonder if this is like a repeat of the French-Brazilian soccer match yesterday, you know, that...
Maybe they caught fire.
And he is in 7th place behind his teammate Alboreto, who is 6th. And we are looking at Ayrton Senna on new rubber now, which, like all tyres these days, as the pit signals are being prepared, are preheated before they go on the cars with special electric blankets, which are made at Verwood in Hampshire in England, incidentally, most of them anyway. And that means to say that Senna will be up to race speed immediately, and now he's setting about closing the gap between himself and the 2 Ferraris in front of him. The first one of them is Johansson, then he's got to get Alboreto, but meantime Arnoux and Lafitte have got Derek Warwick in between them in the Brabham. Ginzani's come into the pits in the Osella. Alan Berg, you probably saw him being lapped, is driving a very sensible, gentlemanly race. It's his first ever Grand Prix, and what a place to start. Detroit, and his first drive in a turbo as well. That is Martin Brundle, who's still going, I was going to say going strong, but he obviously isn't going strong. He's slowing right down and looking as though he's going to come out of the race. And Jacques Lafitte, second behind his teammate on lap 17, is looking for Arnoux to make a mistake.
Yes, I get the impression that Lafitte can go significantly quicker. And there's Senna now behind Stefan Johansson, and Senna on fresh tyres will be looking for a way around Johansson, and he won't want to waste too much time stuck behind him. Meantime, I think Lafitte is capable of going a bit quicker than Arnoux if only he can find a way around. But of course, that is a big problem here in Detroit. And Senna was just ducking out then to have a look.
And that was Martin Brundle's Tyrrell that was stopped, the Englishman who has performed so brilliant. Senna is past Johansson, and Martin Brundle, who's performed so brilliantly at Detroit for the last 2 years, is not going to complete the race in 1986. His car parked in the entry to the tunnel, not in a dangerous place, I trust. Should be perfectly all right there. But now, lap 17 out of 63, with René Arnoux leading across the line. There he is. Jacques Lafitte is dropping back a little in second place. Nigel Mansell is still in third place. In fourth position now, and we haven't seen him for a while, but he's moving up, Alain Prost. In fifth position, it is Nelson Piquet. Sixth is Alboreto. Eighth is now Senna, and down to ninth position has gone the Ferrari of Stefan Johansson. Is the circuit going to break up here at Detroit, as it has for the last 2 years? There was an enormous controversy in 1984 in practice, and part of the course actually had to be relayed with quick drying concrete overnight before the race began. The course broke up last year as well, because the tearing pressures of these tyres are enormous, and you can see that Lafitte is going through, is he? Yes! Jacques Lafitte, with a gentlemanly wave of his hand, takes the lead from René Arnoux on his 173rd Grand Prix. Incredible!
Yes, and he wasn't exactly helped by his teammate, a rather unteammately way of letting him through. I thought Arnoux made it particularly difficult for him, as Nigel Mansell closes in the background. Now, Mansell has dropped back, and I think he's done the clever thing in that he's nursed his tyres back to health, which is possible to do, because all of a sudden he just recently set a new lap record, and he couldn't have done that on the state his tyres were in earlier, so Mansell has been very clever. This is a real seesaw situation with tyre condition, because Mansell is definitely the quickest man, or quicker than them, and Prost, of course, is coming back. Now, the Ligier, you see, Arnoux has damaged his tyres. He's been going slow, which is why Lafitte was climbing all over the back of him. And so Lafitte won't be thanking him for holding him up for that long, because he has allowed Mansell and Prost to catch up.
And it could well be, of course, we never know this, not being in the cockpit of the car, that Nigel Mansell may have had to ease back a little to allow his fuel counter and the computer to get his fuel supply back onto target. It's more likely to be tyres, and it's Lafitte leading, Arnoux second, Mansell definitely closing up in third position. There he is. In the background you see Alain Prost, who is in fourth position, and Nelson Piquet is still there in fifth place. Alboreto is now in sixth position, and the first, second, third and fourth on lap 19 are certainly in visual contact with each other.
But it does look now as if the track once more is playing tricks, and it has changed, and it has certainly eased as the fuel load has lightened a little bit. The tyres have got scrubbed a little bit. It seems that those people who were in tyre trouble have been able to get their tyres back, i.e. cool them down, scrub off the grained bits of the tread, and polish them up, as it were, which makes Senna's pit stop look like a tactical error, possibly, because he was in a bit of tyre trouble, and it would now, with hindsight, appear that by staying out there, he might well have been better off. So, when we've had one or two people in the lead already who looked as if they were going to go away. First of all, Nigel Mansell got past Senna at the end of the first lap and romped off into the distance, only to be hauled in. Senna then took over. He romped off into the distance, only to be hauled back. The Ligiers then did it, and now the field has concertinaed up yet again.
As Martin Brundle sadly walks back to his pits out of the race, and Nigel Mansell is 2.6 seconds behind Jacques Lafitte, the race leader, on lap 20 out of 63. Frenchman leads, Frenchman second, Englishman third, Renault-engined cars first and second, and the Williams Honda in third position. Well, Senna has certainly got the bit between his teeth. He's got ahead of both the Ferraris. He's up into 6th place. He's in the World Championship points. And on lap 20 out of 63, it is Lafitte leading, Arnoux second. There they are. Mansell and Piquet, 3rd and 4th. In 5th position, behind is Ayrton Senna now. So, again, Lafitte leads, Arnoux second. There they go through. Mansell 3rd, Prost 4th. Piquet 5th, Senna 6th, then the 2 Ferraris of Alboreto and Johansson, 7th and 8th. 9th is still Eddie Cheever. In 10th position it's Riccardo Patrese. 11th is Thierry Boutsen, and in 12th position Alan Jones, because Eddie Cheever has disappeared from the picture. And Senna is charging hard in 6th place. Well, what an incredible performance. Even if he doesn't go the race distance, and we'll have to wait and see, by Jacques Lafitte. Lean, very fit, the eternal French humorist. Now there is Mansell 3rd, and you just saw in the background Prost in 4th position.
See what I think might be a blister on the left front of Nigel Mansell's car, and his left front tyre. We'll have to keep an eye on that, because if that is the case, he is not going to be able to last with it for very long. Just having a look.
That's Christian Danner, who's momentarily held up the 2 Ligiers who are now past him. Christian Danner, a German, in the Arrows for the first time ever, and that has allowed Nigel Mansell to close the gap. Now Arnoux, trying to get up with Lafitte, has broken the lap record again. So we've had Senna break the lap record, we've had Mansell break the lap record, now Arnoux has, and now Nigel Mansell, 3rd there, has got to get past Danner quickly, not to lose the advantage that he had when the Ligiers were held up a bit. Into the Atwater tunnel, coming through to complete lap 21. Lafitte, Arnoux, Mansell is through and past Danner. Prost, just saw in the background. Watch for the red and white car of Alain Prost, with both the Williams then in the top 6. You'll have noticed that Keke Rosberg is right out of the picture.
Yes, Keke has in fact retired, and so just the one McLaren left to fight. And Jacques Lafitte goes sailing on his way, and we've really got quite a seesaw battle here. The changing performance of the various tyres, and not just the different makes, but also by the way they're being driven. But the lap times are beginning to tumble. The tyre problems seem to be sorting themselves out. The track is no longer as abrasive as it was at the beginning of the race on tyres, and we're getting a succession of new lap records going as they change hands, as the whole field now is quickening up.
With Keke Rosberg out of the race, of course, that means to say there is no chance of him scoring World Championship points, which could adversely affect the situation for McLaren. It will adversely affect the situation for McLaren in the Constructors' Championship, especially since both the Williams are in the first 4. You saw those numbers along the bottom of the screen. They are the race numbers of the cars. And now Philippe Streff is about to be lapped in his Tyrrell by the 2 Ligiers, and again that gives Mansell the chance to close up, while Senna, that you're looking at now, who is still in 6th position, is charging hard to try and get on terms with Nelson Piquet, and he'll have a job getting past his fellow Brazilian if he does, I can tell you.
Possibly have, because not only are these Frenchmen looking for a 1-2 win and Jacques Lafitte's first victory for 5 years, but of course they spent a whole weekend celebrating the French victory over Brazil. You just have to be down in these pits to realise how much soccer matters to the mechanics. When Ayrton Senna was practising yesterday, they actually put out a board saying Brazil won, the French nil. Unfortunately, it changed round. If these guys can win the Grand Prix as well, my word, what a week they'll have had, and it will be French champagne they'll use to celebrate. Over to you, Chris.
I'm standing in Eddie Cheever's pit, driver for Team Haas. the American team, and Cheever was a last-minute replacement for the injured Patrick Tambay. Cheever is an American. He carries an American passport. He was born in Phoenix, but he was brought up in Italy, speaks Italian, but he carries an American passport. And he got the ride. It would be a big plus for him in his career. And as I said before, he's the only American in the competition, and his crew here is waiting to serve him if he needs any help. Back to you, Ken.
Working their way through lap cars, the leaders here.
That car they were just passing there was the Canadian Alan Berg. This is his first ever Grand Prix. He did well in the Formula 3 Championship in Europe last year, and this is his debut in Formula 1 because Christian Danner has moved from the Acela team to join Thierry Boutsen after the injuries to Mark Scherer in a rally.
We'll be back with more of our live coverage of the Detroit Grand Prix here on CBS after these messages.
で引退
そういうことになるんですね。負傷しての、引退を迫られたということになるでしょうかね。はい。
そしてアルヌーがもう完全にマンセルに捕まって。
Arnoux will be very, very difficult for the Englishman to get past.
Yes, Arnoux is difficult for any and everybody to get past, including his own teammate Jacques Lafitte, as we've just seen some 3 or 4 or 5 laps ago. But this is really a cracking race because we have got a concertina effect in the right direction in that the top 6 are now concertinaing together again. Senna in 6th place, fighting to get back on terms after his pit stop. Duligier's holding what was quite a comfortable lead and has now been reeled in, and it really does seem that the tyres and their performances are changing from lap to lap on each car. So we've got a wide open race, and there's Alain Prost in 4th place, Nelson Piquet just behind him in 5th place, and so the first 5 are covered really visually. There's no real gap around this street circuit because you can't be that close together with lots of first gear in use. And of course the other thing that really hurts the transmission of these cars is the bumps, because these cars are so quick that if they go over a bump, the back wheels just go, the car goes a bit light, but the wheels spin, and that, as it comes down again, that grabs the transmission and puts a huge load through it. There is Prost, current world champion, and his tyres look all right. So Prost, is he being canny once again and just looking after his tyres for the time being? Because that would be the clever thing to do here.
Well, I was about to say that Prost seemed to slow to me there. He took his hand right off the wheel, and Piquet certainly closed up a bit on him. They're really flying. Now, there's Arnoux, Mansell much closer to him. Prost, 4th. Piquet definitely closer to the Frenchman in the McLaren than he was previously in 5th place. A really great Detroit Grand Prix. Round 7 out of 16 in the World Championship. There's the World Championship leader. And of course, you can get right up to the car in front of you, but you've had it happen on country roads, many of you, I'm sure. There'll be a car in front of you that you want to get past, but there is just not enough clear road anywhere to be able to accelerate away and past before you come to a corner. And that's exactly what is happening here to Nigel Mansell. Particularly, the problem is exacerbated by the fact that a lot of the corners here are blind. Can't see round them, and it's just like driving down a tube with concrete walls. And Senna now the race is really coming alive, because Ayrton Senna, who is in 6th position still, has got Nelson Piquet's Williams in his sights, and very soon I think we're going to have the first 6 covered by about 5 seconds.
Yes, indeed, Senna really flying, and he is catching the whole lot of them. So Senna's pit stop, it would appear, has paid off. He's on slightly less worn tyres, which should be an advantage, and the top 6 are having tremendous concertina effect. A really superb race.
Now you're looking at Prost closing up on Mansell with Piquet right behind him. As you look now at the race leader, and there is a bit of a gap now in comparison with the past. And Senna's got the lap record down to 1:43.3, as you see, 87 miles an hour plus slightly. And Prost with Piquet right behind him, up to Mansell, who is third. The World Championship leader is showing all his experience and all the smooth finesse, because Prost really drives with his fingertips. Now look at the gap. Lafitte, Arnoux second, third and fourth, Mansell and Prost. The two Ligier still leading, the Williams still third, the McLaren still fourth, but for how much longer? Piquet there in the Williams in fifth position. Look behind Piquet, and there is Senna sixth.
But I think the time will come if Prost has been nursing his car a little bit, which is difficult to say, it's only a guess, and if he has, it's time that he made his move, because he will know that Senna, if he can't see him in his mirrors, that is, which is unlikely with the car in the way, but he will know that Senna is charging and catching the whole lot of them very quickly.
And between the second place man, who of course is René Arnoux, and Senna, who is sixth, there is less than 4 seconds on lap 26, and Senna's changed his tyres. Many of the others will have to come in. The race will then be thrown into confusion because there will be new leaders, but never mind that for the moment. Ayrton Senna, the youngest man in the race, second in the World Championship, having won a Grand Prix already this year, is charging. Prost is coming up to take Nigel Mansell, and third position as Lafitte goes through in the lead. Look, Arnoux second, Mansell is still third. Prost tried for third position, but Mansell managed to shut the door and keep him back. And meantime, Nelson Piquet is keeping a watching brief in fifth position. Arnoux, Mansell, Prost, Piquet, Senna in sixth position. Still seventh and eighth, but dropping back the two Ferraris of Alboreto and Arnoux. Still in ninth position is now Eddie Cheever.
And this really is a very, very tough race indeed for the drivers. It's a scorching hot day here, very hard physically anyway, and to drive in this close company, knowing, because they're all experienced drivers, knowing that one little slip will put you and possibly somebody else out of the race, and they are all well aware of the fact that you can't score any points if you're not in the race. So whilst they're racing hard, and there goes Nelson Piquet, and he's jumped Alain Prost, and that was a mistake by Prost not to spot Piquet coming, and they're really falling all over each other, and Senna is right up behind Prost. So second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth, absolutely nose to tail.
Lap 27, magnificent. Arnoux second, Mansell third, Piquet fourth, Prost down to fifth, and Senna going through. Senna goes through, up into fifth position, surges past Alain Prost, who's lost 2 places in half a lap.
Funnily enough, I don't think Prost is going to be too upset about that, as he couldn't get to the front of that group. I think he'll be quite happy to sit at the back of it, bearing in mind the possibility. And René Arnoux has got into the pits then. There he is, changing his tyres. So Arnoux went for tyres, and this may have been good timing by Arnoux. So Prost would probably rather see them fall over each other.
Under 10 seconds, not bad for René Arnoux, but of course he's slipped right down the field. Jacques Lafitte is still leading, not having changed his tyres. Mansell then is up to second place. Piquet is in third position, and there he is. Senna is now fourth. Prost is in fifth position, and there are the second, third, fourth, fifth virtually together. And this is lap 28. Mansell, Piquet, Williams. Senna, Lotus. Prost, McLaren. Arnoux into the pits and out again. Arnoux in sixth position, he's still in the points on his new tyres.
Jacques Lafitte, who stretched his lead a little bit with all the excitement going on there. but René Arnoux is definitely the man to watch for the time being, because the advantage of new tyres may be a seriously telling factor, and Nelson Piquet having a look down the inside of his teammate Nigel Mansell, and Ayrton Senna sitting there absolutely ready to pounce. Nelson Piquet is going to have to hug the inside of the corner, not give Senna any space, and I think Prost, as I say, probably playing a waiting game, and if he is worried that these three in front of him are going to get into some sort of a tangle, he needs to sit back 30 or 40 yards to give himself room to avoid any spinning cars. Remember here, when you're in a tunnel of concrete barrier, an Armco barrier, the cars bounce off them right back into the middle of the track, and at high speed it can be very difficult to avoid cars and debris as accidents happen.
Into the pits comes Streff in his Tyrrell. Prost has yet to win a race at Detroit. It's one of the few circuits he hasn't won on. Now, Lafitte is through. Mansell second, Piquet third, Senna fourth, and Prost fifth. Very, very close thing indeed. And you've just got to look all the time for one of the drivers to go slightly offline, because that's the only way you're going to get through here. And Lafitte is driving a masterly race in his 173rd Grand Prix. Only Graham Hill drove more Grand Prix than Lafitte has. Graham Hill, 176th Grand Prix, and this incredible French veteran who seems to get better as the years go by. A lot of people had written him off some time ago, particularly when he was in the Williams team, and said Lafitte's days are over, he will soon be retiring, have been proved totally wrong. He leads. Now the gap from Lafitte to Mansell, who you see rounding turns 1 and 2 there, is about 4 seconds. You can see the gap for yourselves between Mansell, Piquet and Senna, second, third and fourth. And this race is, if it was needed, another indication of the real maturity of Nigel Mansell. Having won the last Grand Prix in Canada, having won before that in Belgium, having put up pole position in Canada, second on the grid here, but he's having to fight to hold Nelson Piquet back. And Piquet, of course, will be anxious to prove that he's the top man in the Williams team, a double world champion. And Nigel Mansell is ahead of him in the championship this year. And Lafitte is coming up to Derek Warwick, and Piquet goes through to second place, and Senna challenges Mansell. So it's now second Piquet, third Mansell, and fourth Senna. Lafitte is past Warwick, and you saw what I was talking about there, just a momentary lapse by Nigel Mansell, and Nelson Piquet sprinted through to second position, and he's up behind Derek Warwick, who will be looking to lap.
Yes, it looked to me then as if Nigel missed a gear, because he seemed to lose momentum inexplicably, which usually means you just missed a gear as you're going up through the gearbox, because his momentum was lost to such extent that Senna very nearly got past, but now he does. So Ayrton Senna follows his fellow countryman Nelson Piquet through past Nigel Mansell, and Mansell is obviously in trouble. It's more than just a missed gear, because Prost has got into the pit.
Yes, Prost into the pits, just about to take Nigel Mansell, but instead he dived behind the Armco into the pits. Nigel Mansell is slipping back, and the race order now on lap 30 as out of the pits. That was a now good stop. 9.6, not as good as the McLaren team have done in the past, and certainly not as fast as that meteoric stop that the Williams team did in the last race of 7.4 seconds. But now Nelson Piquet is right up with Jacques Lafitte, who's going to stop next lap, we think, to come on in for tyres, and he's going to lose the lead to Piquet.
And Nelson Piquet goes through down the inside, but Lafitte's coming in. He's not about to fight a major rearguard action or take any risks. But the interesting thing is, I think that maybe these drivers who are stopping now, they've had to take the decision during the race. They were hoping to go the distance, but I do feel they delayed it a little bit long. I think that Prost should have stopped some 7 or 8, between 5 and 10 laps ago to get maximum advantage as Senna punches through. Lafitte in tire trouble, but not a problem because he's coming in to change at the end of this lap. So new first and second as Nelson Piquet is pursued by Ayrton Senna, two Brazilian drivers, but there is plenty to come with René Arnoux out on fresh tyres already, Alain Prost just out on fresh tyres, and they're within striking distance.
What an enthralling, intriguing race, because René Arnoux is now 5th on his new tyres, and when his teammate Jacques Lafitte goes into the pits, and there he does in the background, Piquet leads, then Senna second, coming up to Alan Berg in the Osella to lap him, and that's giving Nelson Piquet a chance to increase his lead, because Senna has also got to lap De Cesaris in the Minardi after he has taken Berg, which he has done, and into the pits then has gone Jacques Lafitte. Very quick stop, he's out and on the course already. But now, while we wait for things to settle down a bit, and you saw Alan Jones there in the Lola Ford, look at the new race leader, Nelson Piquet, who won the Brazilian Grand Prix this year, who's in 4th position in the World Championship. Senna has still got to get past De Cesaris. Now there is Jones, who's going to be lapped shortly by Nelson Piquet. Senna has now got past the Italian Andrea De Cesaris and can start, he hopes, to close on Piquet, who takes Jones.
Well, it looks to me.
The 1980 world champion from Australia, Alan Jones, out of Cobo Hall.
Of course, Nelson also just got him in quite a good spot. He did, and it looks like Senna could be held up in quite a critical spot as well.
I think that, I wouldn't say Senna shot his bolt, but it looks to me as if Nelson Piquet is actually pulling away. Nelson's not making a charge on him like he made on the other guy.
But now, the other thing, too, is that Senna might know that Nelson has to make a pit stop.
Yeah, exactly.
So why push it if I'm in a few laps if he's going to pull into the pits? Why wear out my car?
Absolutely. Well, why wear out my tyres? Alan Jones, my God, had an incredible moment right here at the chicane. Must have missed it by a cigarette paper.
And right there in front of Senna, too.
We are halfway in the event. 32 of 64 laps have been completed, as Senna, running in second, works by Jones, and out in front, Nelson Piquet stays first, trying to be the first man to win this event twice. Watson winning it in the first year, Alboreto for Tyrrell in the second year, and Piquet, who did not even qualify the first year they ran this race, came back to win it in '84. Last year, Rosberg, who was already retired, came home victorious. Right now, Nelson Piquet trying for first.
And also now we've got that bunch of Alain Prost, Nigel Mansell, René Arnoux, and Jacques Lafitte all together again after their pit stops. It looks like one of the Ferraris in the...
Alboreto just went into the pits.
Back to the race.
Nelson Piquet about to lap Thierry Boutsen in the Arrows car. One of the BMW engine cars out here.
So here's how they stand at the halfway point. Piquet is first, Senna second, Prost is third, Mansell is fourth. More
long pit stop you saw, but he wasn't in the points. Michele Alboreto, who won here in 1983, but he's certainly not going to win here in 1986 unless there's a lot of mechanical rot in front of him. Piquet driving beautifully consistently. Brazilian leads, Brazilian second. The Williams of Nelson Piquet rockets through at the end of another lap. Behind him in second place is Ayrton Senna. Third is Alain Prost. In fourth position, Nigel Mansell. In fifth place, it's René Arnoux. In sixth place, Jacques Lafitte. And let's look very closely at those tyres on Nelson Piquet's Williams. They look in good condition to me. As Senna, with Thierry Boutsen in the Arrows in front of him, can't get past. And the gap between Alain Prost in third position and the leader was 23 seconds, but the leader is in the pits. It is Nelson Piquet. Now, is this going to be another cracking Williams? It's Mansell. Mansell in the pits. So Nigel Mansell stops, tyres out again, and Mansell was in fourth position.
Yes, the Williams team, who have been so fantastic with their tyre changing this year. A little bit of trouble with the right front, a little bit jammed on, and that is always a problem with these Grand Prix cars, and it's a problem that really one can't do anything about, because the wheel hub gets very, very hot indeed, huge temperatures around the brakes, and the different materials, the different metals have different rates of expansion, of course, because they're different materials, and that means that sometimes the wheel nut will jam on, and there's really not a lot you can do about that, or not a lot you can do to ensure against it, because if you leave it loose enough that it won't jam on, of course it might fall off when you're going along, and that, of course, is no fun for anybody. So, there are the two leaders, still in line astern, and Nelson Piquet seems to have played a very canny game, because he's looked after his tyres, he was in no hurry at the start of the race, and he's gradually edged his way up as others have hurt their tyres, and Johnny Dumfries has made his stop. He's back in the race in 11th place, and 11 cars now on the same lap. So Johnny Dumfries, well over half distance, still on the same lap of the leader, and that is one of the best races he's had so far. Another new lap record for Nelson Piquet as this race is going steadily faster. That we would expect, of course, with fuel loads lightening and more rubber going down onto the track to give it more grip. And Nelson Piquet seems to be establishing himself, because Ayrton Senna has been, the gap has been similar to that, if not a little bit closer, for some time now, and Senna really is making no impression on leader Nelson Piquet. And in fact, Alain Prost, who is in 3rd place now, having made his pit stop, is now the quickest man on the circuit, is actually catching the two leaders very slightly, but he's not catching them very fast, and he's going to have to really press on if he's going to catch them before the end of the race. His current rate of progress will leave it pretty marginal for him.
It's looking to me as though Nelson Piquet on lap 35 has got things very much in control. There's a comfortable cushion between himself at the present moment and Ayrton Senna. There goes Piquet, crossing the line to complete his 35th lap, some 3 seconds ahead of Ayrton Senna, with Alain Prost well back now in 3rd position. In 4th place, it is the Ligier of René Arnoux, ahead of his teammate, who is 5th, Jacques Lafitte. Then in 6th position, it's Riccardo Patrese, that's significant, in the Brabham. Then Nigel Mansell, and behind Nigel Mansell, Stefan Johansson, Michele Alboreto, Eddie Cheever, and Johnny Dumfries. Johnny Dumfries in 11th place, soon to be lapped by Nelson Piquet, the race leader. And let us hope for his sake that poor Johnny Dumfries, who's had the most appalling luck in his first Grand Prix season, actually gets to finish a race, because he failed to finish in 5 of them this year and failed to qualify in Monaco. Now, between Piquet, who is in the lead, and René Arnoux, who is in 4th place, there are some 29 seconds. Senna now cracking the lap record, 1:42.8. So he's going to close the gap slightly between himself and Nelson Piquet. But as I've said many times in the past, Nelson Piquet, with this pits to headset radio of his, which the Williams team have, will be getting comments from Patrick Head, will be told how to watch his fuel, although fuel is not a problem in this race, fuel consumption. It's only 157 miles long, and they can comfortably do that on their 195 litres of fuel. Indeed, may have tanked up with less in order to save weight.
Well, the pace has gradually and steadily increased at the front between these two battling it out, as Eddie Cheever appears to be in a bit of trouble. As they've gradually increased pace, so it seems that they've dropped 3rd and 4th place men Alain Prost and René Arnoux, because the gap is now extending. So the fight seems to have gone out of Alain Prost, although Arnoux is closing slightly on Prost and maybe about to challenge him for 3rd place.
Bags of activity in the pits. Nelson Piquet is still leading. Johnny Dumfries is in the pits, and you can see that it's nothing to write home about. Nearly 23 seconds, so maybe there was a wheel nut stuck again. There is the Scotsman out of the pits. Well, at least he's still running, which is good news for him, because he hasn't been able to do so in the Grand Prix in which he started this year yet, as I said. But there's Piquet, commanding from the front. He's now on his 37th lap around this twisting, turning circuit, which places so much stress on drive shafts, on brakes, on tyres, not to mention, of course, the drivers. It's all stop and start, point and squirt, and at the moment, the gap between Piquet and Senna is just under 3 seconds. So Piquet is keeping the cushion just about consistent all the way round.
Yes, tremendous stuff. These two are really racing hard now. They're absolutely flat out. The gap is wavering up and down by small amounts. The lap record, they're taking turns at lowering as they go quicker and quicker, and a really tremendous race. Nigel Mansell, after his pit stop and everything else, has dropped right back. He is around a minute behind.
And he's in 6th position in the points. Vital to him, of course, in his fight for the World Championship. Although the man he's tying with in the World Championship in 2nd place in the Championship is also in 2nd place in the race. And there he is, number 12, Senna. Eddie Cheever has managed to get the Lola Ford back to the pits. He was in 9th position for a long time. And it's time to reflect a little, with the Fury going out of the race for a few moments anyway on lap 38, with Piquet leading, Senna there in 2nd position, in 3rd place Alain Prost, in 4th and 5th places the Ligiers of Arnoux and Lafitte as Cheever exits the pits. In 6th position Nigel Mansell, 7th is Johansson, and in 8th position Riccardo Patrese in the Brabham. 9th is Michele Alboreto, and up to 10th position now Dumfries, who's gone ahead, of course, of Eddie Cheever, who went into the pits and out. In the background, the Ambassador Bridge at the end of the Atwater Tunnel. Piquet's round Stanton now, round Woodbridge Street, up to turn 6 and turn 7. Coming now past the Congress buildings to the left-hander at turn 8. Just 3 seconds approximately between Senna and Piquet. Between Senna and Prost, it's some 27 seconds, as Piquet laps Theo Fabi in the Benetton. Piquet's making a beautiful job out of passing people without disturbing his rhythm, and that's critical, of course, at any stage of the race. This is lap 39. Now watch how Senna deals with the Italian in front of him, as Piquet goes into and out of the tunnel. We should see Senna exit the tunnel in front of Theo Fabi. If he doesn't, he will have lost more time and distance, and that will enable Piquet to increase his lead. Meantime, Nigel Mansell has dropped a place because ahead of him has gone Stefan Johansson, and into the pits comes Piquet. So he's not going all the way through the race on one set of tyres. Now, it's down to the Williams mechanics now. Up go the hands. But, oh, the seconds are ticking by. This is agonising. The right front is stuck, and Nelson Piquet is sitting quietly there. Out goes the jack, but that is about 10 seconds faster than it could have been and has been in the past. And that means to say that now Senna is in the lead. And
interesting that it was the right front wheel that stuck on both the Williamses. It was jammed, if you remember, on Mansell's car, only not as badly, and they had trouble once again on Nelson Piquet's car. But what I don't quite understand is the wisdom of Nelson making the stop at that stage, because he was going very well indeed. The lap times were still coming down, and I would have thought at this stage of the race he might have done better to stay out there and try and soldier on to the finish, particularly because every pit stop has a risk, and that is the risk that we've just seen, the jammed wheel. And although you can hope that you're going to be turned around in about 8 seconds, the real allowance has got to be at least 12, and that doesn't take into account problems. So Nelson Piquet, it's not really fair of me to sit here and criticise, because he may have had a good reason for doing it, but I couldn't see from here a good reason for him to come in at this stage when he was leading the race, car going very quickly indeed, unless he was certain that his tyres just simply weren't going to make it to the end. And Senna is in, so they've obviously all decided they're not going to make it to the end.
Well, this really is exciting, because with Piquet having gone in and with Senna having gone in, having made a superb pit stop under 9 seconds, and that is the second time he has gained 10 seconds in effect on Nelson Piquet, whose pit stop was 18 seconds and Senna's pit stop was 8 seconds. Well, until Senna came in, he was leading with Piquet in second place, with Prost in third position, with Arnoux and Lafitte fourth and fifth, with Johansson in sixth position, with Nigel Mansell seventh, and with Patrese in 8th position. But now, again, we have to wait for things to settle down and see what the positions are going to be at the end of the tyre changing round.
Prost is in third, fourth Arnoux, fifth Lafitte, sixth Mansell, seventh Ferrari of Johansson, then Patrese is 8th, Alboreto is 9th, and Eddie Cheever is listed as 10th. And we understand that Jones has broken down an axle problem on his car.
Well, that's unfortunate, because they were having a good show, of course, here in front of the hometown folks at Ford.
Now there's another Eddie Cheever story developing. Remember, we saw him running slowly. We had him at 10th. Barry Gill can update us on that right now. I think he has Eddie Cheever with him.
Yes, I'm with Eddie. He looks very hot and very tired. Eddie, this was your first Grand Prix for 8 months. It looks as if it's been very hard work.
Watching TV and eating potato chips is not the right way to train to drive Grand Prix cars. I haven't been driving for the last months. Practice was good. The car was running well in the race, and I lost it coming out of turn 1. I don't know what it is, but just snapped away from me. Could be a driving error, it could be something else, I'm not sure.
Well, Eddie, I have to tell you, the Ford team have been delighted with the information you give them and the work you put into it. I hope we're going to see you again.
I hope Ford doesn't forget I'm an American, and it's always been a hindrance in my career being in America. Now that there's an American company in Formula One, I hope we don't forget.
Thanks, Eddie. Back to you, Ken.
Cheever really wants to come back to Formula One. He feels really outside of things this year, and he certainly has performed well this week.
Well, you've got to when you've been in it that long, and then just to be dropped. Of course, his team, he didn't really get dropped. The team dropped out of racing, Alfa Romeo, and this is a good break for him.
But it was difficult. I mean, he had no time to take care of the jet lag, and that's a terrible change when you come over from Europe. He arrived on Thursday night and Friday morning strapped up in the car.
And then to jump into a car he doesn't know and go out, and, you know, Detroit's not the kindest of place to learn to drive a Formula One car again.
Prost, the first man to win the World Championship. Frenchman to win the World Championship. Now stays in that 4th position and tries to close on Arnoux in 3rd. We'll have more from Detroit in a moment.
On the circuit, 4th is Alain Prost, 5th is Jacques Lafitte. Things are getting very exciting again.
Yes, and Prost is about to come under pressure from Lafitte. The two Ligiers have closed up on him, and Prost really seems to be struggling this whole meeting. It's been a bit of a struggle for McLaren's. In the meantime, Piquet, comfortably the quickest man on the circuit and really flying.
As Lafitte went through there in 5th position. Look down the track, there's the tyre wall. And up into 6th position has come Riccardo Patrese. Real encouragement. And there is Piquet in a shattered motor car. I don't know what's happened, but the right front wheel is off. The spoiler is off. He's obviously gone into the wall. And of course, that means to say that the Williams team has lost its chance of winning, and Piquet has lost his chance of winning for the 2nd time in 3 years. He gets out of the car now. What are they going to do about that motor car? There's no way they'll be able to drag that off the circuit. So Senna is increasing his lead. Arnoux is up to 2nd, Prost is up to 3rd, and Lafitte is up to 4th.
Yeah, the marshals have got a crane to it. They put a rope through the roll bar, and they'll be lifting it up through the rollover bar. And it does look as if Piquet just ran wide and clouted the wall with his right front wheel. So, well, they couldn't get the crane to work by the look of things, so they're going to try and drag it. And that really is in a very difficult position indeed, that car. But hopefully there'll be plenty of warning for the drivers with yellow flags as they approach the scene of the accident. So that leaves Ayrton Senna in a relatively comfortable situation for the time being. But remember, the 2 Ligiers are going very well, and they're not out of touch behind him.
Well, as you watch Ayrton Senna, I'll tell you that we haven't seen Jacques Lafitte go through. So, Senna coming through to complete another lap. Well, they won't get anywhere pulling that car, trying to pull the car off the circuit with canvas webbing, because the amount of friction, never mind the weight on those tires, is going to make it impossible to move if they haven't got a crane. But once all the drivers have gone past it, the one time, there'll be a mental note of the fact that it's there, and they must keep clear of it from now on. This is lap 43 in a 63-lap race, and now it's looking as though Ayrton Senna is on his way to his 4th Grand Prix victory, which will do his World Championship chances no harm at all. But sure enough, Arnoux in 2nd position, Prost in 3rd position. We have seen Lafitte, who is in 4th place. In 5th position now, Riccardo Patrese in the Brabham. In 6th place, Michele Alboreto in the Ferrari. In 7th place, Nigel Mansell, but not showing any signs at all of finishing in the first 6 unless several people drop out in front of him, which of course they could well do. This is likely to be a race of attrition. There was one year at Detroit where only 5 people finished, and there's still another 20 laps to go. Warwick being caught to be lapped again by Ayrton Senna. Warwick in his 2nd Grand Prix in the low-line Brabham, a car which he's finding very difficult to master because the seating position is so low that the driver's chin is literally forced into his chest and breathing is difficult. As you saw, Piquet's car went into the wall on the exit from turn 16, which is almost at the end of the lap. Senna goes past the arrows. And unseen by you, Nigel Mansell, just to prove me wrong, I am delighted to say, is up into 5th position on lap 44. Leading Senna, 2nd Arnoux, 3rd Prost, 4th Lafitte, 5th Mansell, 6th Alboreto. The leader, Ayrton Senna, youngest man in the race. Patrese is in 7th place. Johnny Dumfries, everybody keep your fingers crossed for him, is in 8th position. He was in the World Championship points in his first 2 Grand Prix in Brazil and Spain, only to retire. He is, of course, a lap down. He's been lapped by Ayrton Senna there, who's now on his 44th lap. And we must never overlook Alain Prost, calmly driving along in 3rd position in the McLaren. Long way to go yet. And Prost has an uncanny gift of being able to pace himself. There's Arnoux 2nd. There's 14 seconds now between the man you're looking at, René Arnoux, who is 2nd, and the race leader, Ayrton Senna. Both of them, of course, have changed tyres. Arnoux. Arnoux, who drove for Ferrari in just one race last year, blotted his copybook in some way that we know not, but it looks considerably less than 14 seconds to me now between Senna and Arnoux. And Arnoux, as a result of blotting his copybook with Commendatore Ferrari, was given the old heave-ho. Piquet walking in. Not too far to go. Wherever you are in Detroit, you can get back to the pits fairly quickly. And there is Alain Prost in third position. And René Arnoux, of course, in that second place, striving to regain the Grand Prix reputation that he had, and he's certainly doing it in this race, having led to give up the lead to his teammate Jacques Laffite, and he's setting about Ayrton Senna. The gap between Prost, who is third, and Laffite, who is fourth, is only 9 seconds. So the lead four are closing up, no doubt about it. Senna, there's a sight you won't see anywhere else. Passenger road cars going down one lane, and Formula One Grand Prix race cars going down the other. That looks like Frank Durney and Sheridan Finn greeting Piquet back.
Yes, Piquet, the same dejected look on his face as he's been wearing all season. Mind you, this time he's got a real reason to look dejected, and before he hadn't particularly, but he really hasn't looked a happy man this year, and it seems to have shown in his driving. As they pass the remains of his car, or three-wheeled Williams, and Ayrton Senna, who is under pressure from René Arnoux. Arnoux is still over 10 seconds away, but he is chasing hard, and Senna is going to have to go absolutely 10 tenths all the way to the flag, but 10 tenths with circumspection. It's 11.5 seconds the gap, but with a certain amount of circumspection, because he's still going to have to watch his tyres and look after them, and of course brakes are always a potential problem here at Detroit.
And that was Andrea De Cesaris's Minardi out of the race with no driver in it, so he's foot slogging it back to the pits as Piquet has done. Arnoux, who was 14 seconds behind Senna, has got the gap down to just over 11 seconds. And Senna rockets out from behind Riccardo Patrese's Brabham. Both the Brabhams still in the running. Lap 47, Senna there leading. Arnoux in second place. The yellow flag's there out as a warning. Third position is Alain Prost. Fourth position is Jacques Laffite. Fifth is still Nigel Mansell in the pits. Sixth is still Michele Alboreto. Seventh is Riccardo Patrese. And Senna, the leader, has lapped everybody up to the seventh place man, Riccardo Patrese, and will soon be taking him as he goes into the right-hander, turn 16. 17, past Piquet's broken Williams, and he has now lapped Riccardo Patrese, who is seventh. So only 6 men are on the same lap now. The leader on lap 47 out of 63, and the fastest lap so far, that of Ayrton Senna, 1:42.7, which is nearly 3 seconds faster, and that's Arnoux, René Arnoux. Obviously his tyres were gone off, and René Arnoux has broken it, but Piquet is quicker, of course, 1:47. And the short, bandy-legged René Arnoux walking back to the pits, and you see the penalty here of just going marginally offline at Detroit. It's a very unforgiving circuit, and that means to say that this increases Ayrton Senna's chances of winning, because the main opposition to him at that time, René Arnoux, is very much out of the race, and that means to say that Prost is up to second.
Yes, but that is very good news indeed for Ayrton Senna, because it's taken a lot of pressure off him. He would not feel as threatened by Prost. Prost has struggled all weekend to hold, to just basically keep up, and Senna is now 26 seconds in front of Prost, so he's able to pull away, whereas Arnoux was marginally closing on him, but he was having to drive absolutely at 10/10. He can now sit back a little bit and take extra care, and because he can afford to spare the time.
Well, there's Prost. Can he make up over 20 seconds? It would seem unlikely, good as he is. And that defection, forcible defection of René Arnoux has helped Nigel Mansell, of course. He is now up into 4th position behind Jacques Lafitte, who is 3rd, Prost, who is 2nd, and number 12 there, Ayrton Senna, the race leader on lap 48. Now, Senna went out last year with a sickening thump when he went into the tyre wall on one of the barriers. Prost, 2nd position, leading the World Championship. 2 points ahead of Senna. Well, Senna now isn't losing anything to Alain Prost, far from it. He's now some half a minute ahead of the Frenchman in the McLaren. And Prost is now only 6 seconds ahead of Jacques Lafitte. So there's a developing battle for 2nd place with Ayrton Senna very, very much in command. But his car looking a bit rough on the corner, they're back there.
ティームロータス首脳陣と日本のホンダとの接近、アイトンセナを含む意味での接近ですね。それが始まっていきましたね。で、この年の夏にロータス、ホンダ、アイトン、セナ、中島悟、発表に至るわけです。
非常にセナがホンダを使いたいというふうに言ったとも伺ってますが、
実はセナだけじゃなくて、マクラーレン、ロン・デニス、アラン・プロストも極秘来日してこの以前からですね、接近してたんですね。ただ当時はやっぱりホンダエンジンはウィリアムズの独占供給契約が残っていましたから、そういう意味ではもちろん全くなんていうんだろう、裏側の話ということになりますけれどもね、つまりそれぐらい、他ブラバムチームとかも含めてですね、多数の有力チームがホンダにエンジン出してくれないかというような工作っていうんですかね、ロビー外交っていうんですかね、やってる時代ではありましたね。
ちょうど日本のF187年からね、全線中継が始まるわけですけどもね、ちょうどその今こう、夜明け前という感じだったんですかね。
時期ですね。1986年の6月ですから。
さあ、そしてフェラーリ、アルボレートが前にいます。セナは土曜日の会見に出席しなかったという話
それも一つ、話題になりましたけれどもね、ワールドカップサッカーがメキシコ大会ですね、
86年、
あって、やっぱりそっちの方に、今でもそうですけどね、今の F1 関係者も結構ワールドカップの方みんなに見に行っちゃうんですけれども、アイトン・セナからすれば当時のブラジルのということで、気になっていて会見に来なかった、遅れたというような、そういったエピソードもありました。
Lap 50, 13 laps to go at the end of this one. Senna in command, Prost 2nd, Lafitte 3rd, 3 different makes of car in the first 3 places, 4 different makes as Senna goes through and takes Alboreto. So it's Lotus leading, McLaren in 2nd position, Ligier in 3rd place, Williams in 4th place, Ferrari in 5th place. A good healthy sign because 5 different makes of car are in the first 5 places, and Ayrton Senna, you're looking at now on his 51st lap, has lapped everybody up to his arch rival, who is tying in the World Championship in 2nd place with him, Nigel Mansell. Just Senna, Prost, Lafitte and Mansell on the same lap. And Nigel Mansell is something like 1 minute 25 seconds in 4th place behind Senna here, the race leader. There he is. Mansell in 4th place is soon to be caught and passed by Senna. And just as Nigel Mansell last week in Canada rubbed salt into Senna's wounds by lapping him, Ayrton Senna is going to do exactly the same thing to Nigel Mansell very shortly here at Detroit. the table's well and truly turned, and the Gérard Ducarouge designed Lotus with its V6 pneumatic valved Renault engine is going beautifully. Reliability hasn't been a Lotus problem for a long time for their lead car. Last season, this season, the season before, and Senna's showing no signs of flagging, nor is the motor car, as Mansell goes through and René Arnoux takes a refreshing drink. He seems to have got back to the pits now. Riccardo Patrese and Alboreto, 5th and 6th, a lap down, and you can see that it's 1 minute 39 seconds on the chart there on the between Mansell and Senna, but you can see that that's a full lap because the lead car here is Mansell. He may be in front on the track at this point, but he's very, very nearly a full lap behind race leader Ayrton Senna, who's coming up shortly to complete his 52nd lap out of 63, on his way to his 4th Grand Prix victory in his career, having won last year in Portugal, then he won again in Belgium, won this year, of course, in Belgium, that fantastic finish between himself and Nigel Mansell, the man he's about to lap. And Nigel will know it, of course. He'll see the black and gold distinctive shape and colouring of the Lotus as Senna goes through to lap the 4th place man, Nigel Mansell.
Yes, and Nigel, quite rightly, we saw a little flick of his hand as he went into the tunnel there. Probably too experienced drivers always know when they're being lapped. And Senna is able to go on his way, but Senna is no longer in a hurry. He's pulling away from the whole field, and really, now I would think it's time for him to ease up and nurse the car as best he can to the finish. No reason to hurry. He's got to look after it mechanically. He'll be with particular emphasis on tyres, brakes, and his own performance, in that he, above all, he mustn't lapse in concentration. And that is the one danger for him as the driver. He's got to concentrate very hard, but he does have the advantage, as I say, of not being in a hurry.
Well, we've got back to the thing that matters, and this is it. Alain Prost, the World Championship leader, in 2nd place, being caught by the veteran Jacques Lafitte, who is 3rd in the Ligier. Senna, of course, well and truly on his way. The race virtually won, unless he has trouble, and that could happen, often has in the closing stages of a Grand Prix. But now, Jacques Lafitte, 42 years old, from Stoke Poges, would you believe? That's where he lives, because for some inexplicable reason, England is actually a tax haven if you're a Frenchman, but that's where Lafitte lives, and he's catching Alain Prost, and James is shaking his head fiercely at me, so I guess England is not a tax haven.
It was until a couple of years ago, until the Inland Revenue attacked the foreigners living here, but rather flattering. The reason Lafitte lives here, well, he was living here for tax reasons and because he was driving for British Team Williams at the time, but he lives here now because he likes it, which I think is splendid.
Yeah, it must be the golf, I think. Jacques Lafitte is a passionately keen golfer, but enough of that. Back to the race. Jacques Lafitte on the right is catching quite fast now Alain Prost, who is 2nd. Very important to Alain Prost, the difference between 2nd place and 3rd place in World Championship points terms is 2 points. And Senna is on 9 points at the present moment for his win, so Alain Prost really does, who is 2nd in the championship, need to finish 2nd in the race. They're coming through now, Prost and Lafitte, 2nd and 3rd, virtually together to complete their 54th lap out of 63. Over the line, Prost, over the line, Lafitte, the gap in terms of time is just under 2 seconds. You can see what it is in terms of distance. out of the double left-hander onto Atwater Street.
Well, surprisingly, Lafitte looked a little bit tired then when we had that close-up shot of him over the bumps. His head was wagging a little bit, and that's not like Lafitte. He's very tough despite his advanced years. He's very tough and very wiry, strong, but he did look a little to be nodding a little bit with the head, and of course that comes as no surprise. The G-forces are huge, and the neck gets a terrible bashing because your head is the only thing in the car that isn't really supported, and of course not only is it just your head, but it's got the weight of a crash helmet on top of it as well, and that makes the neck a real problem area for Grand Prix drivers.
Nice one for Riccardo Patrese there in 6th position. Of course, that gives the Brabham team another point. He got the 1 point that they desperately need in order to get free travel through the Formula One Constructors Association to next year's Grand Prix. But now Lafitte, lolling head or no, is getting it right. He's ever closer to the second place man, Alain Prost. Frenchman second, Frenchman third, McLaren second, Ligier third, Brazilian Ayrton Senna leading in the Lotus. And it could well be, as Jonathan Palmer, still in the running, goes through in the Zach Speed, that there's going to be a change for second and a loss of 2 World Championship points for Alain Prost if that happens. Up to turn 1, turn 2, onto Atwater Street. The right-hander at turn 3, where there was some problem with water on the track in practicing. Along the little short straight between Stanton and Woodbridge Street into turn 4, second gear. Turn 5, a 4th gear corner. Now onto East Jefferson and the Chrysler Service Drive, turn 6 and 7. Past the Congress buildings, Lafitte ever closer to Alain Prost. Up to the left-hander, the 90-degree left-hander, turn 8, second gear. Is Jonathan Palmer going to balk from the right-hander at turn 9? Now along Larned Avenue, down to turn 10, the left-hander. And Lafitte is through, up into second place. So, this incredible veteran, Jacques Lafitte, who led the Detroit Grand Prix, who has come back almost from the forgotten with a new lease of life, with a vengeance, by finishing 3rd in Brazil, 5th in Belgium, 6th in Monaco, 7th in Canada. He's in 6th position in the World Championship with 17 points, is now up to 2nd place in the Detroit Grand Prix. He's on lap 56, and there's not long to go now.
Very happy about the French beating the Brazilians yesterday in the World Cup, and I think he was ribbing Senna, so maybe Senna's going to give it back to him a little bit.
I suspect so, although Senna's not exactly a humorist.
Yeah. If matters stay as they are, the World Championship standings will change considerably after the 7th round. There's Jonathan Palmer about to be lapped. There you see the standings going into today's race. Prost back in 3rd, which is only worth 4 points, and 9 for Senna. You can see that Senna is going to find himself a way up onto the top. Now let's watch our leader, Senna, at work.
Senna coming up to the Cobo Hall area. It's quite a tricky little part of the course. It falls away there as you go around that left hand of the road, drops away down this slope. Give it a bit of a squirt across the bottom here, turn left round this very sharp turn to go under the Atwater Tunnel.
But you see there, he's not even coming at using anywhere near all of the road.
No.
He's driving fairly conservatively, middle of the road type stuff, because he knows he's got a big lead with a few laps left.
In fact, Nigel Mansell, who he put away a few laps ago, lapped him, which must have been a bit disheartening for Nigel and extremely heartening for Senna, is in fact making up ground again on him now, I think.
Here's Chris Economac.
But down at pit road, there's more than pit crews. It's a 90-degree day here in Detroit, and Joe Barnslow is one of 30 firemen manning pit lane. Joe, what's your outfit weigh?
About 20 pounds.
Well, the question next is, what's it like in there?
Really hot right now.
Have you done anything today?
Not at all.
Okay, just some of the workers here standing by in case they're needed at the Detroit Grand Prix.
All the course workers around here, they were out here, we saw them at 7 o'clock this morning, gathering, preparing for this day. They contribute their services to these events. They do an incredible job. The fast and the famous are down on pit road. The real folks work race after race unknown, just like in this sport. More in a moment.
左フロントとか。
6 men in front of him drops out. Dumfries will finish in the World Championship points, and Mansell has decided to press it a bit, or Senna has eased off a bit, because Senna has now got Mansell pretty close behind him, and he won't worry at all if Nigel Mansell goes past him. Indeed, may move over and let Mansell through, who is in 4th position, because there would still be some 2.5 miles between them in the form of a full lap, even if they're on the same lap. And they go into the Atwater Tunnel at the completion of lap 57 together. The right-hander at turn 16, which is where Alio took Brundle off last year. The left-hander at turn 17. Now the little chicane, turns 18 and 19, past the pits into the straight. And Nigel may well be saying to himself, well, you may have got ahead of me and be a full lap ahead of me, but I'm not going to give you an easy time, Ayrton Senna.
Well, the clever thing for Nigel to do, really, seeing that he can't really catch the feet, would be to sit behind Senna, which would save him from doing another lap. Now, by unlapping himself, he's got to do another lap in the race, and that isn't a clever thing to do for a really canny driver, unless he's got some idea to chase Jacques Lafitte, because anything can happen on that lap, and he really doesn't want it to happen, whereas if he trails in behind Senna, when the flag comes out, he can also stop, and so that's one less lap his car has got to do. It's not a problem for him, but bearing in mind that Sod's Law always comes into force and will attack you if it can, and by doing that, he would kick himself horribly if the car broke down on the last lap.
Ayrton Senna now is on his 59th lap. 4 laps to go at the end of this one, so he's got roughly 10 miles of the race left between himself and that most desired sight of all for any race driver, the checkered flag. To give him 9 points, to make him up to 36 in the World Championship. Prost in 4th position would get 3 points to add to the 29 that he has. So Senna would be back in the lead of the World Championship, except that Prost is now in 3rd position, 4 points. Well, let's not hypothesize or forecast. There's still several laps to go. And Ayrton Senna is well and truly in the groove, driving at a comfortable speed as far as he's concerned. There should be absolutely no problems with fuel consumption. The race between Jacques Lafitte and Alain Prost there for 2nd place continues to rage, because Alain Prost is certainly not giving up. He's not only a masterly tactician, but he's a man who never says die. Senna.
Yes, well, maybe I was wrong surmising that Prost has got brake troubles, because when trying to overtake somebody, brake problems are definitely not a help. You need to be able to go in late and then stand hard on the brakes, and you wouldn't stand a lot of chance if that is his trouble. However, he's definitely hanging in there, so the battle is still alive, the battle for 2nd.
Ayrton Senna, that you're looking at now in the lead, did not exactly endear himself to the media corps yesterday, because having achieve pole position, he failed to turn up at the special press conference which had been organised to enable him to talk about it. He slipped off to the hotel to watch Brazil playing in the World Cup and left a recorded message for one and all, which wasn't received as well as the man himself would have been. Well, he's on lap 60 now. He should worry. We know that the future for Ayrton Senna next year is wide open, because we know that he went to Maranello, where the Ferrari concern has its headquarters recently, and had a 2.5-hour meeting with Commendatore Ferrari himself, possibly, we assume, about the likelihood of joining Ferrari for 1987. But although the money would be good, the money that Senna gets now is good, and what that young man is interested in, as I said last week at Canada, is having a winning car. Well, there's no guarantee that he would have a winning car with a Ferrari next year from the form that the Italian concern has shown this year and last year. And there is and that's Nigel Mansell, who's obviously spun off and is rejoining the circuit with an unscathed car. But Senna there certainly has got a proven quantity in the Gérard Ducarouge Renault-powered Lotus this year and last year. And out of the race now, his first race in the Arrows, goes Christian Danner. This is an indication of what I was saying earlier on about there likely to be a lot of retirements in the closing stages of the race coming true. Senna, needless to say, will be doing everything he can to keep the machinery together in the closing stages of the race. He's now completed his 60th lap, 3 laps to go, including the one he's on. Senna leads. Lafitte is still second, just ahead of Prost third. Fourth is Nigel Mansell, who has unlapped himself. Fifth is Michele Alboreto, and sixth is Riccardo Patrese. And Mansell lost a place. It's just gone past, and we see that. And Prost is challenging. No, it's not. I thought it was Lafitte for a moment. I saw the blue and white car there. It's Patrese's Brabham as Senna goes through, and Mansell, through that spin, lost a place, and up to 4th position then has gone Michele Alboreto.
But Prost does in fact still have Lafitte in sight, although it's all proving a bit of a struggle.
There's the confirmation, the caption of the fact that Mansell is 5th, Alboreto is 4th, Patrese is 6th, and as you well know, you're looking at the race leader, Ayrton Senna. It's a long, long race this, in terms of time, not so much in terms of distance. It's only 157 miles. That is to say 253 kilometres in terms of length. Like Monaco, it's a short race in terms of distance, but a very tiring and demanding one in terms of time for the drivers and the cars. With Senna now coming up to the Scarlet Ferrari of Italian Michele Alboreto, the winner at Detroit in 1983, third in 1985, and at the present moment it looks as though he's going to finish in the points again in 4th position as round turns 1 and 2 on his 62nd lap in this 63-lap race. Smoothly driving, Ayrton Senna, the winner in Spain, 2nd in Brazil, 2nd in Belgium, 3rd in Monaco, 5th in Canada. He failed to finish at San Marino, and he's had pole position here at this year, here, and Brazil, and Spain, and San Marino. And as a matter of fact, the pole position here at Detroit today was the 11th in this young man's career, which only embraces 2 full seasons of Grand Prix racing so far. Well, it would seem to be all over bar the shouting and possible trouble for Ayrton Senna, because he's 40 seconds now ahead of Jacques Lafitte in second place. Looking good for that second place, a magnificent achievement if it happens. 1 place better than his best this year, Lafitte, because he was third in Brazil, and proving that there's plenty of life in the old dog yet. Senna coming through. The right, now the left. He's out of the tunnel, he's down to the chicane. He exits it, he crosses the line, and Ayrton Senna is on lap 63, which is his last lap, having driven a superb race in every sense of the word, because his tactical and his race driving has been magnificent.
Yes, Senna kept it very cool. He's driven hard. He's made no mistakes at all. He's got every inch in command all the way, and it's been a really exciting race. Tremendous seesaw at the start. We had various leaders rush off to the lead, and a bit of tyre trouble, come back towards the pack. Senna was the first to go out way ahead. He was hauled in. Mansell then set off on his own, and it's really been a seesaw battle. But Ayrton Senna comes through as the others have fallen away to record what in the end was a fairly easy win, but he worked very hard for 3/4 of the race.
And he's working hard right down to the closing stages of it. And there's going to be rejoicing all round at Hethel, because not only is Senna going to win this race, but it looks as though his teammate Johnny Dumfries is going to finish a Grand Prix for the first time this year, only 1 place out of the points. Ayrton Senna from Brazil then is going to add to his Spanish victory into the tunnel. Emerging from the gloom, no lights as there are at Monaco, past the Ford Auditorium, the right-hander at turn 16, the left-hander at turn 17, down to turns 18 and 19, the chicane, exiting into the finishing straight, and he will see the checkered flag. There is the checkered flag. And Ayrton Senna has won here in Detroit, with the joyful Lotus people in the background. There is the battle for second place going right down to the line between Jacques Lafitte and Alain Prost, the 2 Frenchmen in the French Ligier and the British McLaren with their Renault and Tag engines. So it's a happy race for Renault too, powering the first and second cars home. Ayrton Senna's Lotus, and Jacques Lafitte finishes second. Alain Prost finishes in 3rd place.
4th place, Alboreto, when it's over today, and 5th will be Mansell, 6th Patrese, a lot of interval between them. Here is the winner for Team Lotus, their 77th victory since they came to Formula One in 1960, and a lap of honor for Senna.
And of course that moves Senna into 1st place in the world. I guess he's 3 points in front of Prost.
The Brazilian flag may not have flown over World Cup soccer, but in World Formula One Championship racing, it flies high over the Ayrton Senna, taking the Brazilian flag for a lap of honor around this 2.5-mile course. Let's go to Barry Gill.
Peter Waugh, many congratulations. I've never seen you smile quite so much.
Yeah, fantastic, Barry. A super race he drove. Very difficult track, very hard conditions, and he never put a foot wrong all afternoon. He just picked up the 1 puncture early on, and the mechanics did an absolutely superb second pit stop for him, and that was it.
As you know, Ayrton was very gloomy this morning after France had beaten Brazil, but your French designer didn't do a bad job for him, did he?
No, the French designer didn't do a bad job on the betting on the football either. I understand he won about $500.
And what about tonight's celebrations, Peter?
Well, I'm afraid that's going to be in coach class of British Airways back to London.
Peter, congratulations, and you're back on top of the World Championship.
Thank goodness for that. Thanks, Barry.
Peter, thank you. Back to you, Ken. A very happy Peter Waugh.
And well, he should be. There's Johnny Dumfries' car, which also had a great finish today. That car coming home in 7th place, the second half of the Lotus combination. There are the final standings today here in the Detroit Grand Prix. Senna first, Lafitte second, Prost in third, Michele Alboreto, followed by Nigel Mansell and Riccardo Patrese. The Renaissance Center in Detroit. The focus of attention for a crowd estimated at over 80, 90,000. Accurate number, hopefully by tomorrow. That's always a hard thing to figure on a road course. Waiting for the speed in the point standings as the lap of honor continues for Senna. He will now be first in the World Championship standings with 36. Prost will be second at 33. Mansell will be third at 29. Piquet fourth at 19. Then Rosberg will be fifth at 14. And Jacques Lafitte with 13. It's a real tight scramble for the world crown this year.
Jacques Lafitte could have a couple more races like that. I'm sure he and France would be very happy. They're going from here to Paul Ricard in France for the French Grand Prix in 2 weeks. That'll be a much higher speed course than this one, and probably won't suit the Ligiers quite so well. And I'm sure will be more back in the Honda Williams camp. That'll be their type of circuit, I feel sure. And of course, Senna in the Lotus, you can never discount him.
That's true. Of course, he's congratulating their French designer. We've got to remember that he's got a French engine in that car as well. Renault engine, you can't discount that.
Well, Renault have had the turbocharged Formula One engine longer than anybody else, and they're at last reaping the fruits of their endeavors.
We'll be back to meet the winner after these messages.
O Ayrton Senna levou propositadamente para o Gerardo Carroz. É realmente assim. Eles que são muito amigos, dão-se muito bem. Vão ter com certeza uma agradável troca de impressões. Gerardo Carroz não poderá levar a mal a graça do Ayrton Senna. Ayrton Senna que deu aqui uma demonstração de grande categoria como piloto. Nelson Piquet também o fez, mas não pôde concluir a prova porque se despistou quando estava na segunda posição. E dentro de instantes será a consagração dos 3 primeiros. Ayrton Senna, Jacques Lafitte e Alain Prost. 2 motores Renault nas 2 primeiras posições e um motor TAG Porsche no 3º lugar. No fim disto tudo, uma extraordinária corrida aqui neste circuito citadino de Detroit. Circuito que não agradava antes a muitos pilotos, mas que agora parece reunir um certo consenso, porquanto, apesar dos muros, apesar dos rails muito perto dos carros, se roda efetivamente a velocidades bem menores. Não houve alteração e creio que não houve. O recorde da pista ficou a pertencer a Nelson Piquet com 1:42.9, mas os 9 pontos da corrida revertem para Ayrton Senna, que assim regressa ao 1º lugar na tabela do Mundial de Fórmula 1. São pontos preciosos que Ayrton leva para enfrentar a melhor condição dos McLaren nos circuitos rápidos e eles avizinham-se rapidamente. Vem já aí a França, como vos disse, depois a Grã-Bretanha, a Alemanha, a Hungria, a Áustria, um circuito muito rápido também, e a Itália, Monza, antes de chegarmos a Portugal, que será no dia 21 de setembro deste ano. Depois de Portugal teremos ainda o Grande Prémio do México, na cidade do México, México este ano muito em evidência, e o Grande Prémio da Austrália em Adelaide, um circuito misto de citadino e de autódromo, se assim se pode chamar, que agradou bastante a pilotos, jornalistas e construtores, e que em Portugal naturalmente vai chegar em plena madrugada, pelo que não teremos transmissão direta, mas sim diferida no dia seguinte. Dentro de instantes teremos o pódio. Ayrton Senna, a 4ª vitória da sua carreira. Depois de ter ganho em 1985 em Portugal e na Bélgica, em 1986 venceu em Espanha e agora nos Estados Unidos. Iguala com 2 vitórias Alain Prost, que venceu em São Marino e no Mónaco, e Nigel Mansell, que ganhou na Bélgica e no Canadá há uma semana atrás. Nigel Mansell continua, no entanto, bastante bem colocado em termos de campeonato do mundo. Ele somou 2 pontos, passa para 29. E está no 3º lugar do campeonato mundial. Aguardamos a todo momento que nos cheguem imagens do pódio. Onde, segundo julgamos, já deverá estar há bastante tempo Ayrton Senna, e também já deverão estar Jacques Lafitte e Alain Prost. Nunca é demais salientar a excelência desta corrida. Foi realmente uma prova verdadeiramente notável, com 6 homens a passarem pelo comando, 6 líderes sucessivos. Por lá passaram Ayrton Senna, Nigel Mansell, de novo Ayrton Senna, René Arnoux, Jacques Lafitte, Nelson Piquet e, de novo, Ayrton Senna. Uma corrida extraordinariamente movimentada, muito emotiva, até a algumas voltas do final, quando Ayrton Senna consolidou a sua liderança e se afastou progressivamente de Lafitte e Prost, não se importando mesmo nada que Michele Alboreto se desdobrasse. O Michele Alboreto se beneficiou de um peão feito por Nigel Mansell para lograr o seu 4º lugar na tabela da classificação. Ferraris que ainda não estão em boas condições, mas que, apesar de tudo, já terminam, o que de qualquer modo é significativo. Esperamos mais alguns instantes para vermos se temos oportunidade de vos mostrar a tradicional cerimónia do pódio, onde Senna, Prost e Lafitte irão ter lugar. A verdade é que já devemos ter essas imagens e elas ainda não aparecem, mas, pelo contrário, aparece-nos o Renaissance Center, um dos principais apoios deste grande prémio de Detroit. Detroit, que, como sabem, é a capital norte-americana do automóvel, cidade onde todas as grandes companhias norte-americanas da indústria automobilística têm as suas sedes e algumas das principais fábricas. Bom, pelos vistos, as câmaras da televisão americana nem sequer são capazes de nos mostrar o pódio com o trio dos homens que se colocaram na frente e, portanto, será uma boa altura para nos despedirmos, deixarmos os senhores espectadores com estas imagens da cidade norte-americana e do Rio, que faz fronteira com o Canadá, esperando um novo encontro com o Grande Prémio de França, onde a 6 de julho o Pedro Mariano e muito provavelmente o Domingos Piedade estarão em Paul Ricard para vos...
And we're back with you at the Renaissance Center here in Detroit. There you see 1 through 5. Nigel Mansell fifth. 6 was Patrese today. Looking further back in the standings, 7th was Dumfries, 8th Palmer. Streff was 9th. Derek Warwick finishing in 10th place. Here's Barry Gill.
Well, I'm with one of the happiest men in the whole of Canada. Gerard, you must be delighted with Jacques Lafitte's 2nd place. 44 years old and as good as ever.
Yes, it's a very nice race for us today because our car, we're leading the race. It's the first time from a long, long time that Ligier was leading a race. And the result is good too.
How good is Jacques Lafitte still?
Jacques is very, very good in race. You know, he's still very, very efficient. Always is attacking the people.
And what about the French weekend? France beat Brazil and you're 2nd in the Grand Prix.
That's a very big weekend. We won the race boat, we won the Brazil-France, and then 2nd in the race. Very good.
Have plenty of celebrations. Thanks for talking to us, Gerard. Back to you, Ken.
And first in the seniors class, 42-year-old Jacques Lafitte placing 2nd here today. Let's go to Chris Economaki, who is standing by with the Detroit champion.
Congratulations, Ayrton. Where'd you get the flag?
on the track, on the slowed down lap, I saw somebody on the stand. I stopped, asked the flag, the guy brought to me, and here we are.
Well, that's great. If you had not had the flat tire, would you have made 2 stops? You think, Ayrton? Oh, he's being greeted by his pit crew here. They're signaling him. That flat tire, would you have made 2 stops or just 1 without that?
Only 1 stop. That flat tire fuck up everything. But fortunately, everything turned out good in the end.
Where did the tire go flat on the course?
No, I don't know. I just picked it up something on the track. I never touched any wall or anywhere. Something came in the tire.
You did it. You drove a great job. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
We're over here now with Jacques Lafitte, the old man of the series. You must have been inspired by the football team, huh?
Yeah, maybe, yes. I'm very happy because it was one of my hardest races today. It was very, very difficult because I have no clutch. I have oil on my foot, I don't know from where, and very sliding inside my cockpit. And the problem with my gearbox. And, it was very difficult race.
But you can still smile.
Yeah, yes.
And the world champion, come home in 3rd place. You have tough luck in practice, but all is right today, huh?
It was not too bad. I think it's a good result for me. That's my best result in Detroit anyway. And I think I got 10 points from Montreal and Detroit. I think it's very good for the championship. So it was a very difficult race, very tiring, and I'm very happy.
Well, what makes it so tiring, Alain? Everybody is sweating. What is so difficult about Detroit?
I think it's because it's very bumpy, and with the cars we get at the moment with a lot of horsepower, it's very difficult because at the end of the race we could not accelerate, we could not brake very late, and because of the bumps, it's very tiring.
Okay, good luck along the way. And now down to the victory stand.
The top 3.
Thank you.
All headed for the victory laurels, and there is Senna's crew as he came to victory today in the 5th Detroit Grand Prix. The anthems for the 3 champions are being played at this time here as we get down to the conclusion of the Detroit Grand Prix. Next up on CBS, it's golf, as only CBS does it. It's the Atlanta Classic, and let's go there for a moment right now, then we'll be back with you again. Here's Pat Summerall in Atlanta.
Acknowledging that he is the winner of the Detroit Grand Prix with Jacques Lafitte 2nd, Prost 3rd, Alboreto 4th, and Mansell and Petrasia lap down in 5th and 6th. Now let's hear the story of the race from Ayrton himself.
At the early stages, you took the lead, and then Nigel Mansell overtook you on the outside of the first corner.
I missed a gear there. I was under pressure from him. I knew that earlier in the race, as I had harder tires than Nigel and most of the people, early in the race, I would have had problems to keep the lead. So under pressure from him, I missed a gear, and he took me. Then he went away a bit, and then he stopped, and I realized he had some problems. So I started to catch again, and then I took him and went, and then I started to go, and then I had a puncture. A slow puncture, and I started to jump even on the straight line. I was just going like this, sideways on the straight line, and I didn't understand first. Then I realized it was a tire. And I could not understand because I was never close to any wall or touch any wall. I was always safe. And even so, I was breaking away from the next guy. So it was very unfortunately because that meant I had to do another pit stop later because it was too early by that stage. And when I got back to the track, I started to make up, and then I slowed down a bit to rest. It was very hard physically, and my foot was already going. I was losing the feeling of my right foot because it's too hard on the brake pedal here. And then fighting back again, and it was like that the whole race. And eventually, when I was behind Nelson, I was just chasing, waiting to see what happened. When I saw him coming to the pits, and I knew the gap for the next guy behind, I came also straight away, hoping that my pit stop was a better one and I would come in front of him. And I think that was the case exactly.
So a victory that Ayrton Senna really had to work hard for, and his reward is that he sees himself back in the lead in the Drivers' World Championship by 3 points from Alain Prost. Nigel Mansell is still there in 3rd place, only 7 points behind, with Piquet 4th on 19 points. In the Constructors' Championship, it's even closer. Williams-Honda now lead by 1 point from McLaren, with Lotus not far behind in third place. It's back to Europe now for the Grand Prix circus, and in 2 weeks' time we'll be in France for the French Grand Prix at Paul Ricard, round 8. Join us then.